This summer, we enter a new era of Star Wars.
You mean the Dawn of the Star Wars Canon Timeline podcast?
Yeah, sure, that too. But I was obviously talking about The Acolyte. We've got to cover that on the Lorehounds.
Oh, but the Star Wars Canon Timeline podcast is exactly at that point in the timeline, the end of the High Republic, 100 years before the prequel trilogy. We've got to cover it there.
Why not both?
Okay, deal.
It's the first live-action Star Wars outside the Skywalker saga. Nobody can miss this.
Listeners, kick off your hot lore summer weekends with scene-by-scene breakdowns of The Acolyte, found in both the Star Wars Canon Timeline podcast and the Lorehounds Mother feed.
And the Lorehounds Star Wars feed.
Wherever you like to listen, a couple of days after each new episode is released.
Welcome to the House of the Hounds. We're the Lorehounds, your guides to the Dance of the Dragons. I'm John.
And I'm David, and this is our coverage for Season 2, Episode 2, and they decided to give us the title finally, Rhaenyra the Cruel. I was checking all night and this morning even. Anyway, this is the HBO Max Original Series, House of the Dragon.
We're going to start off with our hot takes for the episode before we get into a scene-by-scene breakdown. Then we'll answer listener feedback.
And keep that feedback coming. It has been great. We have some help this season, John. Lore Master, a.k.a. now Dragon Master, Nancy M., is collecting and organizing all the feedback for us, which has been a huge help.
Super helpful.
Yes. Send emails to hotd@thelorehounds.com. And then don't be surprised if Nancy sends you a nice little message back letting you know that you got your email into our outline. You can also send us voicemails, and we can include those right in the podcast. I believe we have one from Darker Than Ninjas this episode. And the voicemail tool is like super easy to use. Just go to our webpage, lorehounds.com/contact. As well, you can tag us on the Discord, and Nancy can scoop those up.
I've just decided Nancy gets a new title.
Oh, yeah?
Hand of the Pod.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's
Are we
better.
going to let her like actually run our affairs, file our taxes, and that kind of
There
stuff?
you go. Yeah, Hand of the Pod. I like it. I'm into this.
Okay.
If you hear my voice a little hoarse today, it's because I recorded an 8-minute parody song for Hot Lore Summer today.
Uh-oh.
And it will debut on Second Breakfast.
Nice. Very good. Looking forward to it.
Anyway, support the community on Supercast or Patreon, where you can listen to Second Breakfast and other exclusive content. You can also get early and ad-free access to all our episodes, and the season pass will similarly get you access to the show guide for House of the Dragon.
Yeah. Season Pass has been very successful. And if you're curious about what that is, this is our way to, if there are, we've got a lot of listeners who come around for just particular shows. And they say to, hey, I'd like to support the community. I'd like to throw some bucks your way or get access to some of these subscriber resources. But I'm just not into the Patreon thing. Like, I'm here for one show, and then, I'll come back again when another big show comes around. So we set up Season Pass, which is $10 flat. You get access to all the subscriber material for House of the Dragon, our Season 1 coverage and all Season 2 coverage, all ad-free, all early access. I don't know. We've got a good number of people, who signed up for
You're
it.
selling it enough, I think. But the point is we've got a great community. You can join it for free on Discord and just come to chat with us. And I would also encourage you to check out the show notes. You got a link tree to all that stuff, including our affiliate podcast, where you can find all of our friends.
Well, John.
Well, David.
Here we are.
This is, it's funny because I think the first episode had the thing that everybody said was going to be the dark moment, but this one felt heavier to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think in the first episode, the heavy thing came at the end, and that was most of the heaviness. In this one, the whole episode carried the heaviness of the first episode and then ended on a new heavy thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what did you think of it?
It's like a black hole eating a black hole, kind of.
Yeah. So this is the first time you're experiencing the story at all. What did you think of it?
Yeah, and I'll just make a quick note too. I'm not actively avoiding news and media, but I'm not going out. I'm not reading all the actor interviews. I'm not watching the next week on. I think I'll watch them after we record the pod, but I want to be like, fresh in this way. So I'm just really trying to react to what they're giving to me on screen. And I am here to say that this show is a masterclass in visual storytelling.
Yeah.
The camera work in this show is exceptional. I thought Shogun was knocking my socks off. This show has taken what Shogun was doing and has plussed it, X'd it by 10. It's absolutely incredible. The way that they incorporate the music, the writing, the acting, everything is just phenomenal. I'm the way that they used close-ups in this, like they're right on people. There's one shot even with Emma Darcy where they racked focus from one eye to the other eye, and it was incredible. The face acting alone that's going on here is phenomenal. This whole thing is, there's a lot of different axes for the story to move on. And one of them that I was really picking up on today after I literally just finished my second watch was, and it takes me like when I do my second watches, I'm taking so many notes and pausing and looking up stuff. It can take me like 2.5 hours to
it doesn't take a short amount of time to do the show guide from that either.
No, it's crazy.
Similar amount of time. We put a lot of prep into this pod.
And so this other theme that I was really catching on was youth versus maturity, impetuousness instead of judgment. Do you never think of your father and his temperament? He has not the long view. So there's all this stuff about, peacocks but the long game will win. So there's a lot of that. And in both families and both sides and all around, there are, the young and then the older folks, graybeards, even we got a mention of in episode 1. So there's a great tension there between the olds who want to go slow and think about it, and the young who want to, go and do stuff. And even Miss Arya gets into the action where she was like, "Oh, back when I was young, I thought I was important, and now I got no Fs left to give. my field of Fs is barren." Right. The other thing this episode had was so many truth to power conversations where people are just laying out the hard truths and really confronting stuff. And in one case, not confronting things, but that's fine. And it was just so refreshing to see some of these characters open their eyes and start to engage with, feelings and thoughts and understandings that have been for a long time bottled up and, not expressed. And
it was the family therapy episode of House of the Dragon.
It really was. And then the last thing I want to point out, just sort of on a hot take in terms of this whole amazing masterclass, is the use of mirroring. So they used it a lot last season. And I think this season is topping last season easily. And I thought last season was amazing. This season is so much better so far. 2 episodes in. But they use mirroring a lot where, one character will be going through something and then they'll show another character, processing similar thoughts or emotions. But they're even doing it with plot. And in the last episode, we had this build up to the blood and cheese set piece. Well, in this one, we have this great run up to the what do you call it? The which?
I call it either Cargyll Bowl or
Cargyll Bowl,
Twin Bowl.
Yeah, Twin Bowl. And so we have this same sort of lead up to this really great dramatic moment. And then we have a little bit of, tale that, comes out the end in terms of wrapping up the plot. But the way that they use music, the way that they use, my heart was pounding. I was absolutely freaking out. Like the twin thing could have gone horribly wrong as a plot device.
And this is something that I'm telling you, this is a 30-year in the making plot. You know why? Let me read to you this quote from A Game of Thrones from the 1990s.
Well, let me just, before you do that,
go ahead.
I just went from a TV standpoint, this could have been corny as shit. But this was high stakes. It was adrenaline and heart pounding. It was so good. I mean, I could see at certain points, I could see, oh, okay, I know what's going to happen now. Okay, got it.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't matter that I knew. Knowing actually gave me more intensity of a feeling. And that's a very easy thing to screw up in television, and they nailed it. So what's your 30-year quote here?
Okay, this is from A Game of Thrones, again, the original Westeros novel.
Okay.
Bran is recounting all the stories he knows about different knights.
Okay.
The twins Sir Eric and Sir Eric, who died on one another's swords hundreds of years ago when brother fought sister in the war the singers called the Dance of the Dragons.
Brilliant.
So if you read Game of Thrones recently, this
was there.
Yeah, they didn't put this in the show, but this was there, like dropped there. And you might not have noticed it, but it's pretty incredible how George seeds these things. And these are huge stories. It's very Tolkien-esque, right? A throwaway line about Feanor in The Lord of the Rings becomes many chapters of the Silmarillion. And so this is top tier stuff. Good job, George. We love you.
Well, and good job for the adaptation, because we often talk about inspiration versus adaptation,
right? And
the Shippey test, whether an original work, when translated onto screen, can hold on to the central meaning that the author had.
Yeah,
and I think it's easier. And we talked about this before. It's easier with this because they have this kind of an encyclopedia as opposed to a close text that they have to adapt. So they're lucky in some ways, but still. They are closely reading this, and this material is so tight, and the translation to the screen is so brilliant. I mean, these two first episodes, going from Blood and Cheese to the Twin Bowl, amazing, absolutely amazing. I have no idea what I'm kind of, I said before when we did our season 2 preview with Anthony that I didn't want an 8 episode season. I wanted a 10 episode season. But the way that my nervous system is responding to the show, I kind of am glad that it's going to be 8 episodes, because I don't know if I could go the full 10.
I was shocked, and I'm going to use this to dovetail into my thoughts, but I was shocked that they did Cargyll Bowl, Twin Bowl
so soon
in episode 2. I thought this was going to be like a mid-season or end of season part of, how the Hound and the Mountain have their duel at the end of Game of Thrones. I thought it was going to be like that. This was just it was crazy. It just happened in episode 2. And the minute that Cole sent him, I was like, all right, are we going to see him? He's trying to sneak in for a couple episodes, but they were like, nope,
boom,
we're ripping the Band-Aid off right now. And I really love that they didn't tease it so long. And this is such a moment that they had to live up to, because George kind of toots his own horn in the book. He's like, oh, it was such a tragic tale that there were songs about it and everyone was so sad about this forever. And you watch this and you're like, I understand why that's the case.
Right.
Just that these two brothers loved each other so much, but they ended up on opposite sides of a war and they had to kill each other.
Yeah. I have things to say about the fight, but we'll save it for the.
Oh, I'm wrong, by the way. I'm wrong about. I've discovered through the official podcast.
You're the monster.
That's fine. It did get us feedback, so.
Well, enragement does equal engagement, so.
It sure does. Anyway, just my other general takes before we hop into the episode proper. I was just really thrilled with the production value of everything. I thought Emma Darcy. By the way, we accidentally used she, her pronouns with the actor.
I didn't know. Like I'm not reading them. Yeah, and I didn't read. I'm not reading the media, so I knew.
Okay. I knew. I probably just slipped up because the character identifies as a woman.
Sure.
So yeah. So anyway, sorry, Emma Darcy. But anyway, Emma Darcy's doing an incredible job. The costuming is great. Just the way that Emma Darcy can be so commanding in one scene and just hiding behind all of the servants in the next scene is something that speaks to the range of their acting prowess. And the way that they can act in the same room with Matt Smith and in one season be kind of shriveling from him.
Mhm.
But in the next season, be like, you are pathetic. I know you made me get the sound clip. I did get it, but we could save it for when we get to the scene. I just think that the acting in this is top tier. And I really like that the kids are getting into their own now. We're seeing Jace and Bela have their own personalities and have their own conflicts. And Rhys Ifans, his performance in this episode was the best I've ever seen him. I mean, I make my Manscaped jokes about him, but his performance is incredible. The way that he can be this, oh, don't hurt me in 1 second, and the next second just pivot to, you idiot. Great stuff. So I'm ready to talk about the full episode. I know you have some callbacks you wanted to point out first, though.
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. There was something today when I went in to do my second watch on the kind of animated graphic for the show. It was really apparent that there was a lot of floating dust-like particulate matter. And I know that there's been some conversation around about what was that about when Helaena and Alicent.
Rhaenyra.
No, Alicent. Well, and Rhaenyra.
Yeah, in separate scenes, I mean.
Yeah. Different. So that's even mirrored on this little graphic that was on the Max website. So what does it all mean? I don't know, but I think it's pretty cool. Hopefully it means something, or we could just be chasing Markleys here.
Well, we can chase Markleys all day, because I'll tell you, there are characters that are side characters right now that will be important later.
Right.
And they will not, and I won't tell you who they are, and the show will not tell you who they are until they are.
Boom, and then until we're ready. And I was, and this just goes back to this whole construction of the episode. This was an 1 hour and 6 minute long episode. It was, that's from credit to credit. Seeing that was just sort of roughly. Anyway, I wanted to mention a couple of things about episode 1. Last week, I was at my in-laws, and I hadn't had all the time to prep, and I did a rewatch of episode 1, and there was just a couple of quick thoughts I had. One, we never talk about the plight of the ravens, and so having the opening scene of the raven flying through the woods and then bringing us to Winterfell was just really cool. I was geeking out on that when I was doing my episode 1 rewatch. And another thing that really struck me is when who's the Stark ancestor? Sorry, I'm blanking the name.
Oh, Cregan.
Yeah, when Cregan Stark says, all men of honor must pay its price.
Do you know he's blonde in real life?
Do
you know he's blonde in real life? He looks very Targaryen.
Okay, perfect. But it really reminded me of the whole Valar Morghulis Valar Doharis thing, right? So he's talking about honor, and you have to pay this price, and all men must serve, and it was just again nice, really good world building stuff.
Yeah, I mean, reminds me very much of Ned Stark going, "The man who passes a sentence must swing the sword," right? This whole idea of the Northmen really
live their truth.
Yeah, and they honor their oaths and all that, unless you're Robb Stark. And then that gets all your people killed, and then that's the whole.
Well, there you go. you can say. Who was the kid who drew the stone in the first scene with the Starks? Because they said that 1 in 10 of our family has to join, and I just wonder if I think
that was just a random Stark. I don't recall. I think that was his brother, actually. I think he said that, but he wasn't named, so I didn't add him to the show guide.
Yeah, I'm just curious if that's going to come into play, at some point in the future or not. That's kind of one of those things that they might do, right?
You need a name to get into the show guide. That's my rule.
Okay, that's a good rule.
I'm not putting unnamed servant into the show guide. I thought about it when one of them got cheese, but that didn't even have to do with him getting caught anyway. So I'm glad I didn't.
Another thing that I was really taken by was the power of the conversation between Rhaenys and Daemon about the news of a dead child, and to really get that Daemon, his wife and the faked murder of their son, like the damage that has been done between these two households, these two particular, sets of couples. And for her to, give him the sort of quiet what for, it just really struck me. And I just wanted to put a highlighter line on that little bit of that conversation and how powerful that was. So, and then the last thing I wanted to note was when Sir Crispy Cole and Alicent are walking into the small council, they give us a shot of Cheese hoisting his rat traps over his shoulder and then passing behind them as they go through. And again, just really brilliant construction and just little seeding, dropping of the little things, the little breadcrumbs, the little pieces of cheese for us to follow, straight into the trap of the show.
Well, I will say the feral cat population is thrilled by the news of the rat catchers dying. Yeah, they're thriving. Shall we take a quick break and come back to do our scene by scene?
Sounds good.
We'll be right back. We're back with more House of the Dragon. So we open up with a scene that I call, it's fun in Notion. You could follow along with this outline, by the way, because we're reading from the Notion now. If you are a subscriber, of course. I get to name these scenes now. My little headings. So this is Chaos in the Red Keep. The Red Keep is in chaos as the High Towers scramble to find the murderers of Jaehaerys Targaryen. King Aegon smashes his father's Lego sets in anger. Aemond inspects his quarters and realizes the assassins were sent for him.
So one of the first things that I noticed on my rewatch of this scene was that whole dust mote sort of fluid dynamic floaty thing is actually present in a form, in a way. It's not like explicit, but it's kind of there in the way some of the lights are floating around and the way that the camera's working and the way that the lighting is working. And this camera work in this scene, in this whole episode, is incredible. We both feel at the same time like we're a fly in the wall watching all of this chaos, but then they take us right into the action. And we get mixed in with the action and the darkness and the confusion, and we feel like we're being rounded up and having the dogs barking at us and being pushed around. And then to pair it with cello music, which is that somber sort of, sonorous, is that the way to say that word? That tonality, that rich warmth tonality of the cello, but it has a tragic tone to it. It was absolutely an incredible piece of setup for us to come right into this episode and to pick up right from where we left off last episode.
And of course, we have Aegon literally breaking apart the kingdom. Right? I mean, I guess
toy. Did you wake with a toy? Sorry.
Well, but the symbolism to me is I'm going to go and just smash all that my father has created.
Completely.
And that was such great visual storytelling there.
Exactly. Yep. And then later we get to see it all being carted out.
Yep. I love the cleanup crew. This is, man, they are busy these days,
Yes,
usually they just had to clean up after Viserys's bodily fluids, but now they're full demolition.
Yeah. They're cleaning house. They're changing regimes here. You know what I should ask you to do, because you're all fancy now with your image capturing thing. There's a really great scene of Aemond picking up the coin that he finds that's underneath the table, and then he puts it in front of the camera so that it is over his other good eye. And so we have that sort of cat's eye blue gem thing, and then this gold coin, which goes back to, I think, the whole Valar Morghulis Valar Dohaeris thing for me. It's just giving me those feels.
The coins in, I think it's only the coins in Essos
Bravos. And
have them on opposite sides.
Right. But still, it's just the idea of it all.
Yeah. No, I'm just thinking. You got my gears turning.
But I'm wondering what's on the back of that coin. I was just sort of curious. Is that, and it's probably inconsequential, but the fact that there is some sort of design there is the kind of three-dimensional world building that the show is putting together. So
yeah, I think if we're just reading exactly what they're trying to tell us, it's just, hey, Aemond is impressed that people were hired to kill him.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They had so much gold, they were dropping it and not noticing it.
Right. They weren't scrounging it up. Yeah, because a small, somebody else would have definitely picked that up.
Right. So Alicent mourns. Otto Hightower reassures Alicent that those responsible will be found. Alicent says that the child's pain is over, but they've hurt Helaena. Otto promises the perpetrators will pay, but Alicent blames herself.
His pain is ended. Yours, Alicent, is not. You get a lot more pain coming your way, sister.
I know. I think she knows that, though.
That's exactly
goes, but my
point.
girl. But my girl, oh, man. I feel so terrible for Helaena. Helaena is the only character in the show that has not done anything wrong.
Right. An actual innocent.
Yeah. I guess like Jason, Bela are also innocents. I think we could get most of that generation on as innocents.
Sure.
I don't think that.
Well, I mean, they used to torment Aegon or Aemond. So,
I mean, one, they were like 10,
but it's part of the trauma.
And two,
that he's experienced.
It was a pig. It wasn't like.
Or are you defending their?
I'm sorry, but that was a pretty harmless prank.
But it was part of it. It was an ongoing stuff that they were doing.
But I didn't see it. I didn't see them do anything vicious, and I did see Aemond do vicious things to them in that same time period.
Mm-hmm.
I think Aemond always had a viciousness to him, a cruelty to him that I never saw in Jace, Luke, or we don't really see Joffrey act, but you know what I mean.
So yeah, and I mean they're kids. They're thumping on each other, right? They're going to do that. So the blocking in this scene, again, kind of a mirroring thing. We have Otto in the foreground with Alicent in the background. And then at some point they reverse positions and Otto goes to the background and Alicent comes to the foreground. When he comes in, he sort of tries to comfort her. And this idea that they're in it, sometimes they cannot stand each other and they have to be away from each other. And then other times they're close, but then just the visual setup of this scene and this room and the way that they use depth and changing of positions was just really beautiful. And it again, telling the story of where these characters are at by using the camera and the block in the scenes.
And this is Alicent's first attempt to become close to her father.
Yes.
Completely fails.
Right. Alicent is not doing well in the family, mother-daughter sort of, positioning. She's not figuring it out very well.
They're doing a great job displaying generational trauma here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the fact that it's only now in Alicent's life that Otto is close to his daughter in some ways. And it's, around a war and a usurping of a throne. That's where his warm spot is. That's how you get to him is, hey, daddy, let's have a coup. Can we play Let's Have a Coup? Oh, of course, my daughter. I'll play with you now.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. And we see Alicent passes that right down. This idea that you can't be close with your kids.
Yeah.
Terrible. So let's move on to Aegon's small council of rage. Aegon admonishes the small council for allowing the murder to happen. He questions Kristen Cole's whereabouts on the night of the murder. But Otto Hightower urges Aegon not to make blind accusations. Larys Strong informs the council that they have found the gold cloak involved. Otto lays the groundwork for a funeral procession, loudly blaming Rhaenyra to win the hearts of the realm. Alicent resists, but Otto wins the council over.
I mean, it's not like Otto is wrong. I mean, yes, he's gross.
Oh, he's absolutely right. And in fairness, it was that faction that did it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
right.
If Rhaenyra really wanted to distance her from that, then I think she needs to publicly disown Daemon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She'd have to return.
Probably have him executed for kinslaying.
Right. Send Daemon's head back to the Red Keep to reset those scales.
Right. But you can't do that.
This idea of public spectacle and swing, he's really good. He's really, really good at understanding how that stuff works.
Right.
And he's using their pain and their tragedy for this really brutal end, but he's not wrong in terms of how it's all working, and how to actually achieve what they want to achieve. Right. It's pretty damn clever.
Right.
So I got to give it to him there.
Do you think that Tom Glenn Carney was purposely messing up takes so that he could throw that glass more times? Because I would do that. It sounds fun.
Dude was eating the scenery in this. He was having so much fun. Kind of like, not unlike Crispy Cole with his mom. Eating the scenery there. He just, his portrayal of this character is off the hook. It is so good. It is so, he's impetuous and cold. He's calculating, but then he switches to being needy, emotionally, needing emotional support of his family, to being sort of a really cold-hearted bastard, ready to eat everybody's lunch, to straight up executing somebody. It's an amazing performance.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm really happy with the casting with pretty much this whole show. I'm still not that big of a fan of Miss Arya, but other than that, I'm pretty good with this whole show. So
there was a scene here, a line here where Aegon still deferred to Alicent. So he's like, hey mom, is this actually the right course? And so Alicent thinks that she's still got this control over him. But we'll talk about it later. But I think that is at an end now. I think with him finally letting Otto go, I think she is not going to have the control that she thinks that she once had.
I don't know. I think he dismissed Otto because Otto openly challenged him. I don't think that she will do that, at least now. And the other is Larys put that seed in his head to get rid of Otto. Sure. And I don't think Larys is in the business of getting Alicent out right now. I think he still finds her useful.
What I think I'm saying here is that I think Aegon's emotional turn, I think he's turning further and further away. He's growing into his power. He's getting used to exercising his power. He even says later, I do dare. I've tasted that and it's pretty yummy. I think as he grows in and matures into his power, he's going to be less and less open or looking to his mother for support. So I think she's going to be deluded into thinking how much influence she actually will have in the long run. So,
all right. I buy it.
Yeah. One other really interesting thing too was that I caught was this idea, again, going back to these themes of youth and family, that Aegon is very much the opposite of his father, where Viserys, and we get this later in the scene with Otto, Viserys was slow and to study thing, and Aegon just wants to act. He's almost rebelling against his father after his father has passed away. He's like, you guys did all this slow talky study stuff, and now is the time to spill blood. So it's a real opposite from what his lineage was. He did not take those lessons, and he's rebelling against them quite strongly.
Well, because his dad didn't even plan to teach him to be king. He was never supposed to be king.
Right. Right.
So Helaena becomes despondent next. That's our next very sad scene. And this is where my wife and I started holding hands. Queen Helaena smells the clothes of Jaehaerys as Alicent enters the room. Alicent informs her of the upcoming funeral progress. But Helaena does not want to be involved. She gives Alicent clothes for her son, interrupting Alicent's discussion of her affair with Criston Cole.
Opening this shot is the camera panning up the fabric that she's holding, which I think is, it was his baby blanket, probably the blanket that he was in. And and the camera almost follows the weave and twist of the fabric as it then comes up on her face. And I believe it's Fia Saban, or I'm not sure how to pronounce her.
I'm not sure either.
Her name. I think her legal name is Sophia, but she shortened it for professional to Fia. I looked her just really quickly up on, and I'm assuming her pronouns because I didn't find any information otherwise. Is that she's very early in her career. Like she has 3 credits on Wikipedia, and this one included. And I have to say that this performance here, especially in this scene of her sort of feeling the tragedy of her son, was spot on for this character, right?
It's
absolutely
devastating.
Flawless.
I mean, I've smelled the blanket, the newborn blanket of my son and my daughter, at
Right.
various times, because it just reminds you of like a happy time.
Yeah, because
And
smell
I
goes
just
right into the
couldn't-
memory centers, right?
I just couldn't imagine not being able to hold them again.
Yeah.
And that's just I can't imagine. I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
This is why my wife and I were holding hands starting in this scene. We were like, no, we don't want this.
But then I love her line. She's like, Allison's like, well, they want to be close to you. And she's like, I don't want them to be close. I don't know them. I don't know these people. Why do I want to be close to them?
Right.
It's so good.
Right. Oh, devastating. All right. So let's get right into the sorrow of the crown. I stole that quote from Otto.
Nice.
I thought that was a good way to really head into the next scene. The funeral progress begins with Helaena and Alicent wearing black veils while following the stitched together body of Jaehaerys. The small folk cry out with their support for Helaena and detest for Rhaenyra. When the cart carrying Jaehaerys gets stuck in a rut, Helaena has a panic attack as the people clamor for her. My wife made a really good point about this scene.
Yeah, what's that?
Is that this is the equivalent of Cersei's walk of shame for Alicent.
Okay.
Because they're banging this bell and they're saying, behold the works of Rhaenyra. But I think Alicent, riddled with guilt, is hearing, behold the works of Alicent Hightower. And she just feels so ashamed. And she's next to her daughter who's in such pain. And she has to stare down at this Frankenstein version of her grandson. How awful. And so I think really the emotional impact of those scenes really are very similar for Olivia. Now, sorry, not for Olivia, for Alicent. The actor is Olivia, and she's doing a great job. But we're given this focus on Helaena. I just think I wanted to point out here that Alicent's having a much different reaction because this is a really different. I
was really keyed in Helaena, not Alicent. Yeah. So,
and she's doing her best to comfort Helaena, but in the end, she's muddled in her own guilt too.
Because if she were not doing what she was doing, maybe the Lord Commander would have been on duty and, could have intervened or reacted sooner or, stopped the whole thing. Like, yeah, she is at fault. She is culpable, 100%.
Yeah. Yep. Kristen Cole was a bed.
A bed. He was a bed, indeed. Did you have visions that they were going to do something with the body when
Yeah. Absolutely. I thought the body was going to fall off.
Oh my Lord. I think I've heard that. I heard that on one other podcast I listened to a little bit or two. Yeah, there are two. And both of them were like, oh my God. The whole jiggly thing.
It was going to fall off and come apart. And we were all going to be very upset about it. But in the end, it didn't. And we're just sickos.
Yeah. Because we went there. The show didn't go there. Yeah. But we went there.
They were like, calm down, guys. We're not Benioff and Weiss anymore.
That's right. About the criers, look upon the works. I thought it was very interesting from a Tolkien thing because I know I just listened to you and Anthony and your one other guest on
Chad Carmichael.
On the last Silmarillion story podcast, and so that was in my head. And then I watched the episode. And when they call her a kinslayer, I was like, "Oh, kinslay!" Tolkien. It was a kind of a fun little crossover moment.
Oh, the kinslaying is a whole thing in Tolkien, but it's a whole thing in Game of Thrones too, right? Like that's a whole thing in I was gonna say the Walder Frey stuff, but I don't think it actually does come into play there. That's more of a guess thing. Anyway, go on.
Right.
Go on. I'm down a rabbit hole.
We do that a lot here on the Lorehounds. The small folk perspective is great. They're doing a lot of that this season, and I think I think I saw it on our Discord. A few people were saying that they really are enjoying that as well. That and it comes up later in the scene with Aegon, where I don't know the name of the character. Actually, do we have her name? The mistress that he's with?
No, we don't.
Okay.
With that Aemon's with. You said Aegon.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, with Aemon. Come on, George. The fact that, when the princes have their, toing and froing, it affects the small folk. and they're giving us perspective of the small folk. Not only with Hugh and maybe Adam, but with just being the camera in the streets. And then there was a really interesting, this whole setup had a lot of Shogun DNA for me, especially in the courtyard scene when Mariko's trying to leave at that one time. And people are rushing from one side of a wall courtyard thing to another. And then the way that the doors open and then that a procession moves forward, it was just so beautifully shot. And the camera is right in there, again, like the opening scene, right in there with the action where we can feel like we're a fly on the wall, but also that like we're hustling and bustling with the crowds. And the other thing that this whole procession sort of reminded me of, and we talked about this a little bit before with the political theater nature of it, was it kind of reminds me of the Kennedy funeral. And maybe our historian Brian 8063 could write in with some parallels. But there was a whole thing where we haven't had, when Kennedy was assassinated and then they did the funeral procession, there wasn't historical precedent for that. So they had to make up a bunch of stuff and pull a bunch of history. So putting him on the gun carriage and then having, his son follow sort of behind and give the little, kid salute thing. All of that theater, which is necessary because, there's some part of society's catharsis that needs to happen and to share in this monocultural event. But then also just the idea that if it were not for, Crispy Cole and if it were not for Otto, all of this, there's a taint all around it. And it keeps adding to the heaviness of the episode, I guess you could say.
Absolutely. And it is a heavy episode. So heavy that blood folds.
Yes, he does. Really quick, what did you make of all the dust floating thing? Was Helaena having a vision? Is that
I don't know, because Rhaenyra has the same thing later, and I don't think Rhaenyra has visions.
Okay.
I don't know what to make of this. I don't know if it's just a visual motif.
Yeah, it could very well be just a little motif. Yeah.
I'm not just being coy. This is not a book thing or anything. I don't know what this is.
Okay, cool.
So blood folds, as I said. Larys receives a confession from Blood before he could even implement his torture methods.
He's a little disappointed, right?
I know. He's like, fine. But he's like, I'm not going to waste my time with you. Fine. You give your confession. The confession implicates an anonymous rat catcher. Larys leaves, allowing Aegon to beat Blood to death.
Larys is like, I got my shiny tool. I got my best tools out. Like, we're really going to have some fun here.
Just polish them.
And he's also smart enough and wily enough to go, oh yeah, I can hear the truth of this, yeah. Okay, cool. We're done here. Right. It's a great short and sweet. The camera bar, the way that the camera was shooting through the bars of the prison at times. Mm-hmm. And then right after he gets struck in the head, the shot cuts. Really, really great editing and put together. It's so good.
Yeah. I got this good frowning face of Aegon swinging his mace down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good shot. Good shot.
I don't know about you, but if Larys showed up with that little bag of toys, I would probably I'd probably spit out everything that they wanted to do faster than Blood,
Absolutely. And I think that was a smart decision because I think the torture would have been worse than what Aegon's doing.
That's true. Yeah, this was actually kind of merciful in the grand scheme of things.
I bet you he goes unconscious after one or two hits.
Oh, easily. That first one, he hit him right in the top of the temple there.
That was a pretty hard hit. Yeah. So next we have the Rhaenyra PR crisis. Rhaenyra and her small council reel from the news that Jaehaerys is dead and they are being blamed. Rhaenys eyes Daemon with suspicion, but Sir Alfred Broom
so funny.
suggests Rhaenyra ordered it in grief. Rhaenys comes to the queen's defense.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Great physical acting, this whole scene.
Emma Darcy is holding the camera so powerfully in all the scenes that they are in. And the working it out, and then when Rhaenyra looks across at Daemon And there's that moment of knowing. And then they do a little J cut. That's where the audio overlaps, between the scenes.
Mhm.
And he's just got that smug ass look on his face. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't say anything the whole meeting. You're like, oh, wait a minute. Something's wrong here.
Yeah, his silence was exceedingly loud.
Yeah.
It was screaming.
Huge. And when Rhaenys, I loved it when Rhaenys looks across as well, because she's like, oh yeah, I see you. I see you,
Yeah.
motherfucker.
I think she figured it out before Rhaenyra did.
Probably.
Because she was
long
eyeing him
before.
while Rhaenyra was still arguing with Alfred Broom.
Exactly.
Broom. I have to... Oh, it looks like... Do you know I asked Aaron if he wanted to make any sigils today, and he already did Broom.
Oh, really?
I'm so
shortcut.
grateful. Thank you. And thank you to Brian8063 for doing all the alt text for this. This is a team effort,
wow.
everyone.
Wow. That's very cool. That's a huge amount of work. That's really great.
I'm very appreciative of both of them.
Yeah. Well, I hope the subscribers are too. The idea of not sending Jace out, when Jace says, I'll jump on Dragonback and go do some patrols, and Rhaenyra's like, no, you're not. I don't wonder if that's not going to be a tactical error later on. She's obviously he's the heir, so you got to protect the lineage. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if he's got a dragon and you need him up in the air, flying around, even in a rear guard, in a patrol thing, or in a place that's maybe not as active. But I'm just worried that that's going to, her unwillingness to put another child at risk is going to hamper her strategically. Not even strategic, tactically, like just a bad battlefield decision.
Well, she'll put a child at risk, but it has to be Baela. She just doesn't care about
true. That's a good point.
anybody except her own kids.
That's right.
Yeah. I agree with you, though. I think that her unwillingness to put Jace forward may end up being a liability.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we'll have to see. We know we have some dragons that are unclaimed underneath the Dragon Mount, too.
But it was really Daemon who was in charge of that project. He was very keen on that.
There's other people involved. You never know. You never know what's going to happen.
All right.
I'm just saying there's dragons at play. The problem is you don't have riders for the dragons.
Right.
And that's what you really need.
Yeah. And it's not like you can learn that real quickly. It's not like jumping in a mechanical airplane and learning to fly in the basics. I mean, this is a living, breathing thing that has a temperament and and pattern and history that it's very, very different.
And as far as we know, you need Valyrian blood to ride a dragon.
Right, to have the midichlorians to be able to
right, exactly. Oh, sorry. You're bringing midichlorians into this now?
I am.
Oh boy.
We mix our stew. We mix our stew in the Lorehounds here.
Okay, let's move on to Rhaenyra confronting Daemon.
Yes.
Rhaenyra confronts Daemon about the orders he gave that led to the death of Jaehaerys. He begrudgingly calls it a mistake, but not without insult to Rhaenyra for shying away from bloodshed like Viserys. She questions his intentions in their marriage and calls him pathetic before he storms out of the room, later leaving on Caraxes.
So there are a couple of different emotional centers of this episode, and this is absolutely one. There are multiple. Like I when we did our hot take for the episode right after the episode aired, I was completely disoriented because there are so many things to try to put hands on and mind on, or around. And this conversation was absolutely incredible. The whole thing that Daemon I cannot be held responsible. Yeah, dude, we know that's your MO. Like, you have been communicating to us that for a very long time of your life. And then for Rhaenyra to finally call him on it, it was a huge act of courage. And I don't think that if for her not, what's the right way to say this? Because she's the queen, that status saved her life in this situation. Because I don't think Daemon, this monstrous abuser, gaslighter, would have, I think, been provoked. He would have justified his violence and his anger. It would have all come out, and I don't think she would have survived had she not been the queen.
Right. I totally agree with you. I think that the chemistry between Matt Smith and Emma Darcy is very, very, very good. I think they both play off each other really well. Matt Smith is so good at playing that charming yet evil person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. God, he's so evil in this, isn't he?
He sure is. But he's so charming that we accept him, right?
Right.
And that, I mean, we're in Game of Thrones. We're in moral relativity here, for sure.
For sure. We're in George's world.
All right. We're defending genocidal maniacs, and we're just like, but they turned around in the end.
They were okay. There's some more mirroring here between Rhaenyra and Alicent. It's not like a one-to-one thing, but it's very close with, here we have this, a little bit of potential violence between Daemon and Rhaenyra. Mm-hmm. And then later we actually have some actual violence between Crispy Cole and Alicent,
right?
Where she's kind of smacking him around. So again, the two women are orbiting each other in this, this wide elliptical relationship, and what's happening on one, happening with the other it's really, it highlights. And again, when we're talking about these moral gray zones, it's really great to compare and contrast when you've got these two, especially when you have more empathy or interest or sympathy for one versus the other. So, setting up the characters into parallels is really helpful to illuminate that stuff.
Yeah, and Rhaenyra really calls out Daemon's intentions here, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
What do you want from me?
Mm-hmm.
I think, the same way Mysaria says, oh, well, Daemon and all this was a child's dream.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rhaenyra is starting to feel that about herself. Like, I wanted Daemon in a way that I would have only wanted him because I was young.
A child. Yeah.
And I didn't know any better. But now that I see him, now that I'm in a position of power and I'm at a position of strength, I don't think I like this guy very much.
Yeah. And we
don't know if they're ever going to see each other again, right? I mean, she even says later, he might be gone a week, might be gone forever.
He's got to walk his own path. But I can really relate to what she was saying and what you're saying there too. And this goes back to the whole theme of youth and being an adult, or becoming, that process of becoming an adult. And as I move into my mid-50s, I'm like, oh yeah, I got challenges enough. I don't need your drama. That like life, just charting a path for my little family, in partnership with my spouse. It's challenging enough for us, let alone somebody's manufactured BS. And then this line that she drops, which is the writing is so good this season. To indulge the darkness you keep sheathed within you like a blade. Oh man, that is fire. That's so good.
That's a good one.
Sheathed within you. It's not like sheathed like a blade within you, but sheathed within you like a blade. It's a perfect turn of phrase. So it made me think of, it did give me a little Wheel of Time vibe with the, what's that black goo that Matt has with the dagger?
Oh, I can't remember right now. I'm so in Game of Thrones mode. I've had to purge some memories. I've had to dump some lore in other fandoms.
Not to mention all the Silmarillion and stuff that you've been.
I think
prepping.
It's Machin Shin.
Okay,
I think that's what it's called, but I could be wrong.
Right. Remember the black goo, people. Right? Yeah, the black spirit stuff. So anyway,
would you like your sound clip now?
Oh sure. I saw you trying to load it up.
I need you to. Get some sound clips.
I need to. I need to. We need to make notations of those when I call those out too.
You struck down a child.
It was a mistake.
Who was it?
This point that he comes up with, where he's like, "Okay, you backed me into a corner. It was a mistake. I admit to it." And she that's that moment of truth when she finally sees him for what he is, and this patheticness. And it, for him, and Rhaenys says this later when she's talking to Corlys, that, you know, wherever he goes, he's got to have this sense that he's his own master.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's boxed in finally by his bride, niece, queen, person who displaced him from in the being the next in line, there's just so much density packed in there. And then that moment of her, the sort of, you know, scales falling from her eyes, and just realizing how really pathetic he is, because he can never, while she's growing and maturing and actually trying to be an adult and not just being, you know, running around with like a with youthful passion, he's never progressed beyond that. He is stuck in his maturity level.
Yeah. Well, of course, I combined scenes a little bit here. I know that you wrote in the next scene that we see Caraxes emerging from the cave and flying off, but I put that in the previous scene just to finish off Daemon's arc in this, that he is going to just fly off on Caraxes, and where's he going?
Where's he going? That's what
everybody's saying. Harrenhal, right?
Everybody in the show is saying Harrenhal, but you know, he's a wild card, right? It would not be beyond a show like this to, you know, give us an old rope-a-dope, you know, and send us, you know, have us look one way and then have him go another way.
Well, and plus it's exactly within his character to do something rebellious because he's mad at his wife.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And doing something, you know, is he gonna, what's his path? Is it to serve his own ego? Is he going to try to do something to serve the realm, to, you know, stay in good graces? I mean, the last time he got upset, he went off to sulk in Essos, right? And stay there. Was that where they were? They were
in Pentos.
Pentos, that's
which
what
is in Essos.
Yeah. You know, he was just like, screw it. You know, I got a good life here. I can just chill out and, you know, have some fun. And so, you know, what is he going to do? Is he going to do something? Is he going to take a wild swing? Is it going to be helpful? Is it going to be not helpful? Is he going to try and sort of plunge a dagger into the heart of the Greens? I haven't heard a lot of speculation, so I don't know.
Spoilers. I can't say.
Yeah.
Sorry, I do know that one. All right, let's go to Baela, who joins the fight. Rhaenyra summons Baela to her study. I think it's her study. On the way, Baela passes her father, Daemon, who ignores her. Rhaenyra asks Baela to keep a watch on King's Landing on Moondancer. When Baela asks about Daemon, Rhaenyra says he must follow his own path.
Great follow out here where the camera follows, and the camera does this a bunch in this, where we have a follow lead kind of thing. I don't know what they call it in the industry, where the camera's following behind the back of a character, and then it'll jump to the front of the character and then work backwards as the character is moving toward them. So we follow Daemon out, and then he passes Baela, and then the camera flips and follows Baela, and then we jump into the room. And it's just a really great scene transition. Very clever, and sets up this whole thing for Baela looking down and seeing the broken cups on the floor. And she's like, yep, my dad just left and he was not happy because he didn't say hi to me. Yeah. So she's putting it together.
We will discuss more of her thoughts on him later, but for now, let's just say she's a little pissed.
Yeah. I really don't want anything bad to happen to Baela. There's something about Bethany Antonio, the actor who's playing the character. There's a very sweet nature, and I just really enjoyed seeing her in this little moment. And I was like, oh, wait, we barely have had Baela as an adult on screen, and I hope we get some more time with her.
I know.
You know, so
I know. Wouldn't that be nice?
Stay high
and now we know she's got a dragon.
Yes, right.
Moondancer,
right?
Who's we see later in I believe that's Moondancer later, and I wrote it in the outline.
Right.
When,
I think people are figuring that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to figure that out.
When Adam's looking up.
Right.
So Aegon, I'm moving on
Ooh.
because we're not even halfway through this outline yet.
Okay, really quick, a small thing. I know I've got so many notes. It's like the good old days, John. The CGI dragon, the camera stops, the dragon moves past us, so the camera, the motion is provided by the dragon, but then CGI dragon to real life Matt Smith, seamless CGI scene, beautiful.
Yeah, really good stuff.
And then he sort of falls off the cliff, like Damon's kind of falling off the cliff here. But then the way that they animated Caraxes like beating its wings to really powerful, getting that lift. It was a beautiful CGI scene.
All right. So Aegon snubs Helaena. That's pretty much the whole summary. Yeah, I wrote a sentence just for posterity's sake, but
and it's kind of like these next three scenes are like they're really short and they're all kind of connected.
Yeah, I just wanted to catch a shot from each one, so I wrote a little sentence on each one. So we got Aegon snubbing Helaena. Then we have Kristen. I call it Kristen Cole obstructs the cleaning crew. Kristen Cole shamefully watches the servants of the Red Keep dismantle Jaehaerys's bed and clean up the blood from the murder. He stands in the way of someone carrying a bloody mattress. What a tool! And Rhaenyra cherishes her young children, Aegon and Viserys. Another Aegon. We'll call him Aegon the Younger.
Yay. I have this whole thing with Aegon and Helaena. This delicate matter, but I've read a little bit and heard a little bit that the death of a child can be one of the most traumatic, it's obviously most traumatic situations, but for the relationship between parents, it can be a devastating thing to the relationship. Some people can fall in and support each other, but then oftentimes it's a thing that breaks people apart, and they just there's so much hurt and guilt and recrimination and shame, and it's just a giant ball of ugly emotion. And so seeing Aegon just going, I can't deal with this. You're kind of weird anyway. You're an enduring mystery, and I'm going to go kill some people. Bye.
Right.
And she nods to herself. Do you see? And she kind of nods to herself. She's
yeah.
Okay.
And look, they've never had a good relationship. It's not like this is a new thing for her, but it's just such a heartbreak that she can't even get support from him in this trying time.
Exactly.
Now, what I want to do is contrast this with Rhaenyra, who cherishes her young children and really wants to actively play with them. But also, I just want to point out the hypocrisy of all the Greens except Alicent on this issue, which is that they all have zero sympathy for her when she lost 2 children and a dad in the same day. One of them, maybe 2 of them, because of their fault. I'm going to say maybe on the miscarriage, because I think the stress arguably sent her into a premature labor.
Okay. But didn't that baby have some deformities as well?
Yeah, that's true too. All right. Yeah. Fair enough.
But still, that's let's not diminish the trauma of that situation.
I'm just saying she lost 2 kids and a dad and a kid, by the way, who she had into his teenage years. Like they had a bond.
Right. Yeah.
And yet they only feel sympathy for themselves when they lose a child. Like they just have no empathy for others. And that's it. The show makes me just hate Team Green. Like I see the flaws in Team Black. It's mostly Daemon.
Yeah. Right.
But Team Green, just like, it's kind of like Team Black, everyone except for one person is a decent person. Decent in that they try to do the right thing most of the time. Everyone on Team Green except one, which I think is Alicent. I think she's Helaena too, but they're the only 2 people with good intentions on Team Green. I just don't think any of them have any kind of good intentions. Now, Alicent has no integrity either, so she gets a fail on that one too. Right. But man, it's just really, this show is skewing towards Team Black so hard.
And the family just keeps, especially the Greens are there's a lack of emotional intelligence, and they just keep harming themselves and harming each other in all of this stuff. They have no way to work through their feelings into a healthy intellectual. Obviously, we don't have the benefit of psychotherapy and CBT and edibles and all kinds of things back then. but it's really shocking at how rough they are on each other, and continuing to be so, just constantly.
Right.
Did you notice the toys that Rhaenyra's children have are the same style of toys that Helaena, when Helaena picks up some toys in an earlier scene, they are the similar kind of toy. They're both like Melissa and Doug or something like that.
Of course, they both sent away to Valerian Macy's and got the package.
Exactly. But again, it's just that building that connectivity between these two families.
Yeah, they are the same family. They lived together for most of the childhood, and then 10 years before, perhaps one of the verses of my Hot Lore Summer song starts with, "For 10 years, we went on Dragonstone."
And that's what when the whole when the Twin Bowl was going down, and how did Eric know? And it was like, of course he's been there. He spent a lot of time there, right? That's like, obviously he knows his way around. So, quick camera work thing. This is the scene where they have a close up on Emma Darcy, and they go from one of their eyes to the other eye. They rack focus from one to the other. Stunning moment. And again, that's what the dust motes were floating around here. It's I
wonder what that's going to be. I really wonder if that's going to turn into anything, or it's going to be like that stupid horse in the Game of Thrones finale.
If it's just a visual motif, I'll be fine with it if it doesn't have deeper meaning, because it's quite beautiful. And it feels like this whole thing, we're just sort of suspended and just sort of floating around and just, causing all this trauma on each other.
David, since we didn't podcast in those days, what the hell was that white horse?
I don't know. I'm racking memory cells to try to come up with it again.
Oh God. Arya just finds a white horse in the middle of King's Landing, and they're like, "This is brilliant. Give us an Emmy."
Oh, that's right. Now I remember it. In the scene in the town. Yeah.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
Anyway, Alicent confronts Criston. Alicent asks Criston if he told anyone about them. When he scoffs at her question, she calls him one who seeks absolution. He replies that there is none for what he has done. Alicent sinks into her bath.
The look on his face is priceless. There are some looks on people. This, Otto, there's a couple of other ones, are just incredible. What do you take me for? But then the line, somebody who needs absolution, like, bang, that's fire. That's so good.
I mean, she projects with that. Because I don't think Criston feels like that. I almost think that Criston doesn't, I think he might have some serious sociopathic tendencies. He really does seem to have trouble feeling guilt for anything.
Yeah, he's so deep into it now too that he doesn't have the moral strength to be honorable about anything.
That might be the wrong word for it. Don't at me. I'm sorry about sociopathic tendencies, but the point is, I think he has trouble feeling guilt at all.
Yeah. That it may be a flaw that goes a long way back. It's got to. That he can dig himself this deep in. Did you notice how? Oh, go ahead.
It's just odd because he seemed to lay himself bare for Rhaenyra back on that boat, and then after that, he hasn't expressed a feeling since. Other than anger.
He does his like, oh, let's run off together and live this like puppy dog fantasy, and she rejects him, and that wounds him forever. That broke him forever in that moment, I guess. So
let me tell you, kids, the only thing I do now is wash my white cloak and get up in that high tower.
Did you notice how Alicent was very carefully watching her servant? She was like, "Get out of here! Get out of here!
Yep.
You're one of Larys's people. You're great. You're gross."
Yeah, she knows that he's watching now.
Yeah. Oh, and this tension of the cutting back and forth between the two sides of the door. She's trying to get her clothes off, and then when she submerges, that was just a really incredible shot. That they did that shot, I thought was really interesting. Of her underwater and feeling.
She thought about staying under there.
She did. She did. So, but just from a visual standpoint, again, this show is blowing me away. It's easily surpassing last year. And it's very high in my top 10 so far this year.
We're doing a great job. We're doing a great job here, guys. Kristen Cole, of course, then goes to project to someone else. He demands that Eric Cargyll replace his stained white cloak immediately and blames him for not being in the royal quarters during the attack. After tearing Eric down, Kristen tells Eric he should redeem himself by pretending to be his twin Eric and sneaking into Dragonstone to kill Rhaenyra. And let me play your little excerpt here.
The white cloak is a symbol of our purity, our fidelity. Kingsguard are a sacred trust. For you so easily sully our ancient honor.
So easily sully. Yeah. How easily did you sully it, pal?
Yeah, sully is an interesting word. Now, in fairness, guy takes off his cloak every time before he sits down to eat. He makes sure he lays down the tablecloth.
John, that was a sly one. That was a good one. I think in this scene, he doesn't come in. I don't know. This is up for debate, interpretation. I don't think that he comes in knowing what he's going to do or say to Eric. And I think when Eric gives him a little shoulder check as he walks by, a kind of sorry, not sorry. I used to do that in the New York subways when somebody would literally stop at the top of the stairs to check their phone. They wouldn't even get out onto the street. Mm-hmm. Just give him a little brush. Sorry, not sorry. You're blocking everybody else from coming up. Not cool. So
I didn't do that because I didn't want to get stabbed.
True. I probably, hey. Anyway, he gives him a little check, a little brush. And I think it's not until after he gives him the brush that he decides to accuse him, because then he says it very loudly and he questions it. He didn't come in hot. He comes in pretty cool and sees the thing, just says, I'm going to screw with this guy. Mm-hmm. And then it escalates. And then he says, okay, fine. Where were you? And then I think because there's a moment you can see where he starts thinking it through. And I think that's when he decides that he can manipulate him into doing this. So I think it was a spur of the moment decision. Open for interpretation, but one possible theory.
I read it as, I like your interpretation. I personally read it as he came in there with a plan.
Okay.
And he was acting the whole time. We know he's a master of deception.
Mm-hmm. True.
So I don't know, but I'm with your interpretation too. I like that a lot too. Is he's improvising. He's playing a little bit of jazz hands. I think the reason that I don't want to accept your interpretation is that I don't think that Kristen is that smart.
But it would be more smart for him. It would take more planning and thought to come in with that idea than to have a flash in the moment. And so,
yeah. All right. I get what you're saying here. I also want to point out that they got very close, and I wrote in the show guide, they definitely almost kissed.
And then everybody's like, bye-bye. Oh, you guys are the Lord Commander and one of his subordinates are going to have a little lover spat here. We're out. They all packed up their shit and left. It was great.
I loved that. I love how everyone just silently leaves. No one has to say clear the room like Rhaenyra does.
Nope. They're just gone. Mm-hmm. So the morality of a ruse de guerre, of a ruse of the battlefield. So they swear a solemn oath, and he says, like, we forswear, doing these dishonest sort of things. And it kind of reminded me of Sansa's idealism of how lords and ladies and knights of the realm, and they swear, to be upstanding citizens, and everybody's like, girl, please. But Eric here is actually like, no, dude, that's not cool. We are the guys that are not supposed to do that. And then this whole, for triumph and glory, and just a complete gaslight.
But Kristen actually does make a valid argument that is a very debatable point. He says,
yes,
you could stop thousands of men from dying if you kill one person. That's a trolley problem right there.
And Rhaenys could have done that as well.
Mm-hmm.
When she and Meleys came up, she killed a lot of small folk. They didn't do nothing wrong. You could have ended this all right then and there.
Right. And the role of honor in taking down dynasties, as they say in this show, is something that I think we have to think of. I mean, think of Ned Stark giving Cersei a warning, right?
Absolutely giving Ned Stark a thought when you started on that sentence.
And I mean, even I'm thinking about covering Ghost of Tsushima with Brandon, and we'll definitely invite Nate on if we do that one, because
is that a video game?
It's a video game about feudal Japan.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and the whole idea is this guy was trained as a samurai, and he's one of the only few left, because the Mongols have come and taken over their island.
Okay.
But he has to decide, do I use quote unquote dishonorable tactics, sneak attacks and poison, things like that, or do I lose with honor?
Right.
And that's a big tension in the game. And now Nate will tell you, Nate's going to write in now, I know it. Nate will tell you that that's not a totally accurate portrayal of what samurai culture does.
Okay.
But it's something that definitely shows up in this show, right? Is, do I act with honor, or do I make a trolley problem calculation?
Right. And I like the fact that we don't have a single answer to the question. We've got variations of it happening with, Ned leading off with the first answer, and getting his head chopped. And we see a lot of other people try a lot of other different options.
Yep.
Littlefinger, Dany, obviously. Yeah. So, and now we have, and I love the way that Rhaenys says later when her and Corlys are talking, she says, I felt the crown pass over me, and that even of it just coming nearby you can impact you, both individually as well as social within your social standing and the way people relate to you, as well as your own personal reaction to it. So.
Right. Well, let's move on. Jacaerys. I always want to say Jacaerys, but it's not. Jacaerys and Baela bond. Jacaerys and his betrothed Baela discuss their fathers. Baela admits she hates Daemon sometimes, and Jacaerys fondly remembers both Laenor and Harwin. Jacaerys misses his brother, Lucerys.
This was a really nice beat between two characters that we've not gotten to spend a lot of time with, but are so affected by all the bullshit that's going on with everybody else. And they're just two young people who are, coming into that next level of capability and maturity and awareness. And they're having to deal in this really turbulent world that is not of their creation. And so just to spend that moment, and just for Baela to put her hand on his shoulder, was just really touching, touching. So,
and it was really moving that he felt open enough to talk about Harwin Strong without a visceral reaction, right? And she approached it with kindness, not with mockery.
So is this like Gen Z showing up the boomers? Like, we know how to do it better than you guys do. I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, Aemond is still mocking them as Strongs, and he's the same generation as Jace.
That's true. Good point.
Yeah.
She was, minor technical issue, she was reloading that crossbow pretty quick. There was no pulling back the thing. She just put in the bolt and shot.
If she's going to be in a room with Kristen Cole and two other people, she has to be ready to shoot Kristen Cole twice.
Very, very good point. Very good point. And then I like how he walks into her line of fire. She's shooting at that post. And he walks squarely into where she's shooting, but he trusts her. It's I think a visual way to show us his trust in her and their relationship. And so again, really, really sweet moment between them.
Folks, that's poor shooting etiquette. Don't do that in real life.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that. I don't care how much you trust them. Don't do it. Don't walk in front of the range of fire. Anyway, let's move on to across the bay, across the Blackwater Bay, where Aemond drinks his milk.
John, shame on you.
Aemond visits a brothel to be mothered by an older mistress. He feels honored that Daemon sent someone to kill him in his sleep and regrets the killing of Lucerys. The mistress reminds Aemond that when princes lose their temper, the small folk suffer.
What I thought, there's a lot about the scene that was really interesting. I mean, the whole milk and, mothering thing. But she is giving him moral education. she is linking the fact that when you fight amongst yourselves, it's people like me, of who you are laying in my arms right now, seeking solace from.
Mm-hmm.
And if you care for me anything, then remember that when you're having your little go-rounds with your other princelings, it's me, the person you care about in this moment, that is affected. And that's some serious moral education that she's giving him that her mother, or his mother never gave him, right? She's actually doing something. And again, this whole scene just screams of that whole mother-child relationship stuff. The milk, the sort of the roundness of the room, the warmth of the womb kind of thing, and the way he's curled up.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Also, guy is bony. My God. My God. He's got a rib cage to be envied by a skeleton.
It's all muscle underneath there, though, man. He can swing that sword.
I'm saying, how does he lift it?
Yeah, it's all muscle. All muscle.
All right.
So we don't know her name yet, but I believe she was the madam that Crispy Cole and Aemond met, the first place that they went to when they were looking for Aegon.
Oh, I'm not sure about that. I can't support that.
I think so.
Decision. All right.
I'm pretty sure.
Wager your
right
internet points.
Somebody go check. I think it was episode 8, maybe, when they were on the hunt for...
It would have been 9.
9? Sorry. Yeah. Okay, 9. I'm pretty sure that's her. So...
All right.
He's divulging a lot of intel in here, and he's giving up a lot of secrets. And so it makes me think, well, when we've got Mysaria, that one of the things that can be useful is trafficking information, and he's giving up a lot of information here.
Yeah.
So,
and the biggest thing I take away from the scene is Alicent has royally fucked up her kids. I mean,
royally,
how
capital
much this
R
guy
royal.
craves maternal affection.
Yeah.
To the point where he is damaged beyond repair. He'll never have a healthy relationship in his entire life.
That he regrets the situation with Luke was really interesting. That was really telling.
Yeah, I'm glad we got that a little bit. This whole thing of...
and what does she do? She reinforces the behavior. She says, I'm glad you said that, right? That's...
No, I would say you're saying she's
as a
reinforcing
parental
him.
thing.
You're saying she's reinforcing him feeling regret, not reinforcing killing Luke. Okay. Correct. I'm with you now.
Yeah. As a parent would my kids, I did this thing and I feel bad about it and I know it was wrong and I feel bad because I know it's, that whole loop.
Well, thank you for saying sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. I've done that. I've done that whole thing. You have to sometimes play it up and just be like, very, very like, ow, that really hurt. And that way, they know not to bite you like my child did today.
Do you ever have the situation where you're trying to be serious with your kids and you just want to laugh because you know the humor of the situation?
I can't let you know that was funny because if I do, you will do it a lot.
Exactly. Yeah, you get the wrong message.
Well, speaking of kids, Hugh's home life is abound, and Hugh and his wife Kat check on their ill child. Kat worries about the shortage of food during the blockade. Hugh says that the king has promised relief, but cannot say when it will come.
What's up with Hugh? Is this a thing you cannot say? Is this what you mean?
It's extremely mildly interesting.
We need our own phrase.
Yeah, I know.
Of that which I cannot speak. I don't know, something like that. Something funny and overly flourishing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm.
There's something from Princess Bride.
I'm just a big fan of spoilers from Doctor Who. The whole. You don't know this. River Song in Doctor Who. There's a whole thing where River Song is the Doctor's wife, but they meet in reverse. So they each have knowledge about future adventures that the other one has not experienced yet.
Is this the Matt Smith era?
Yeah.
Is that the one where it ends on the same shoreline, like a lake or something like that? I kind of remember this. Anyway, whatever.
That's part of it, but it's not the end.
Is it? There's like a person in a spacesuit?
Yeah. That's one of the seasons.
Okay, all right.
Anyway, the point is, so they keep meeting in reverse, and every time the Doctor asks a question that she can't answer, she goes, spoilers, and she just smiles.
Oh, okay.
And it's just funny.
Yeah, but it's not, I don't know, it's not clever and
it's clever.
Okay.
You just don't know.
I just don't know.
You don't get the Doctor Who vibe. You don't get it.
Tom Baker.
walked the. I watched the Tom Baker arc because they brought back a Tom Baker villain in the finale.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Very cool.
and they even had like all old footage of Tom Baker in it.
I wish I had time to watch all this. There's a lot.
You're missing out. You're missing out. It was a good season.
I know. I'm glad you guys are covering it, though. I think it's a really good addition for Lorehounds.
The reason I'm saying we should speed up this recording is because I have to record this in about 12 hours. No, like 10 hours.
Oh, the season finale for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
All right,
we got to rob Peter to pay Paul here, right? In the podcasting.
No. We look. We're already at 90 minutes. I don't think this is a rushed podcast because we're only like a little bit past halfway done. So Hugh,
including the feedback.
You like Hugh?
Hugh, I don't know what to make of Hugh. He's a very handsome gentleman, and I like that his spouse is very practical because she's like, did he say when he's going to help us?
Mm-hmm.
Like the promises are not feeding our family, yo.
All right, my one critique, his wife, Kat, she has iPhone face. You ever hear this?
No.
It's like when you see someone in a historical drama and they look like they've seen an iPhone.
Okay.
I think that the expression she's giving
I didn't pay attention,
tells me that she's seen a smartphone.
Okay. Interesting. I'll have to. I don't know if that I'll look again if I see her come up. The only thing I can make of this is the misrule of Aegon and this point of view from the small folk. But where we go from here, I'm not sure. There was a weird thing where he took the salt and I think there was a salt thing in one of the petitions.
It's just seasoning it.
Yeah, no, but it was like you don't season food in television, right? You eat it was just a weird thing. So anyway, there's stuff in here that
the cultured man.
Okay,
he
I eat a lot
seasons his food in television.
Come
on,
so
let Hugh have seasoning on his food.
He can. I'm not saying he can't have it.
Trying to deprive Hugh, my guy.
No, Aegon is trying to deprive Hugh. That's the problem.
Speaking of other mildly interesting small folk, Alan and Adam reunite. Alan and his brother Adam, both of Hull, reunite on Driftmark. Adam congratulates his brother on winning the favor of Corlys. Alan then expresses hesitation about joining Corlys's crew.
I hope we get to, again, along with Jace and Bela, I hope we get to spend a lot more time with Alan and Adam. These two actors, the warmth was like rolling off my screen. I just really felt the brotherly love, and I just really want to see more of these people on screen.
And I'll say, this is not a spoiler. It's just Alan had one scene with Corlys, and you're like, okay, that could be a one-off or a minor character. Now that he's had his own scene,
yes,
I think that we can safely say this character will be around and develop.
Good. I'm here for it, and I want to see more. And Adam, and we'll get a scene obviously later with Adam, but he is sort of looking to the stars, like, what's the I want to see my name in lights and, do big, amazing things. And that's a big foreshadowing. So,
but when he looks up later and he sees the dragon, he has a different perspective, I think.
And I'm like, what is going on here? There's something going on here that they're setting up. And is this season 2 stuff or season 3?
I don't know.
They're setting up, I think they're setting up season 3 because there's no way they're resolving all of this in season 2. So.
I don't know. Oh, I thought he was fearful of the dragon. I thought he was because Alan was saying, I don't want to fight in a war. And Adam's like, war is great.
Yeah, right.
And he sees the dragon. He's like, that could burn my ship. I could be in a lot of trouble if that comes near me.
You think so? I got a different vibe. I thought he was like,
all right.
I thought he was like, ooh, that's cool.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, now we don't have to talk about that scene later.
We can skip right over it. Perfect.
Oh, I'm not trying to rush this through, I promise. I just want to keep us moving to the Rhaenys and Corlys Pillow Talk hour. Corlys Velaryon expresses his mistrust of Daemon. Rhaenys insists it is hard to accept the crown passing over you, but doubts that Daemon will outwardly challenge Rhaenyra. Corlys says Daemon is missing out on not allowing Rhaenyra to command him.
Such a great moment with these characters.
And made them both more likable, I would say.
Totally. And to have a long married couple in bed that's it. That's really saying something because they're not young, hot, uber beautiful, whatever, and interracial actors. And I just remember all the bullshit before season 1. Oh, the actor, and how can you have black people? Like, man, go kick rocks, because this is life, and these are people, and this is a great scene, and with 2 great actors. So
I'm actually glad that we had the Valerians be darker skinned, because it made it more prominent, the differences between the Laenor's kids and the rest of the rest of the Valerians. Right. It made it easier to believe that people were like, oh, it's common sense that these are bastards.
Another thing that really took me aback in this episode, or in this scene, was Rhaenys fully backing Rhaenyra. We will not let the queen falter. Like, that's a big change given what we had talked about before, the harms, the blows that have gone on between these, 2 parts, these 2 households. And so for Rhaenys to really step up for Rhaenyra and give that solid of a comment, that I was like, whoa, wow, she's really she's not just doing it because they have no choice. I will not let my queen falter. That is, she's going to give it all.
Well, what I read from that too was, with Daemon gone, they have her ear, and nobody else really does.
Ooh, that's very conniving. That's
We're
very
watching
good.
House
that's
of the Dragon.
Good.
Come on.
Yeah,
what I took it as is, we won't let her falter. We won't let her make a misstep.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of it as support, as but I see what you're saying. I thought you were saying that they were going to use it to, wedge themselves in there even tighter.
Yeah, in multiple ways, including the way that lets them be the top advisors and the only ones really listen to, and actually running the show when Rhaenyra is distracted.
Right.
Yeah,
fair enough. I'm fine with it.
Rhaenyra meets Mysaria. Rhaenyra asks Mysaria to account for her involvement in Jaehaerys's murder. Jaehaerys's. Oh my God, I can't keep all these names straight. Jaehaerys's murder. Mysaria reminds Rhaenyra of her previous engagement with Daemon. Mysaria asks for her freedom, but Rhaenyra denies it. Rhaenyra asks where Mysaria got her scar and silently dismisses her. Can I say that this was the only ending of a scene where I was like, what? Like, it didn't feel like the scene ended, and it was unsettling, but not in a good way. Like, I just thought it was really sloppy at the end.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't like it at all. And my wife agreed with me. So that means I'm right, because my wife's always right.
Well, yeah, you have to. Your side is picked. I didn't find it that jarring at all. I thought there was a look. And do we know where the scar came from? That's a question that I have. I don't think we know.
And again, not a book character, so I'm not even doing a spoilery thing.
And they really made that scar visible. It's very clear. And so they put that front and center for this scene. So, but I love the exchange and the energy between these two. And I'm sure I'm with a lot of people, like, make common cause, be allies. We want you to team up. So
yeah, I'm not sure I like the whole shtick with Mysaria. This like absolutely no emotion in her speech and whatnot.
She was fiery in this one.
Oh,
she was like, I worked my way up.
But she's like, I worked my way up, and I worked very hard to get there. And no, I'm not going to do the accent. I'm not going to try.
Yeah, no.
I'm just trying to do the emotion, and to me, I did not think it was a very emotional performance.
Huh? That's interesting.
This is the one casting that I don't like that much.
Got it. Okay, fair enough. I thought it was great. So, and again, another truth to power conversation where they're talking very, and I love Mysaria's just plain. She's like, "Yo, I traded information. I made it to my advantage. I didn't care who they were. I would have been anybody. I would have done it for. They burned me. I used to think I was important. Now I'm out. Cool.
Right.
Bye.
Right.
And your house promised me something. Either keep that promise or kill me. But I just love the whole plain, straightforward nature of it.
Now, I don't believe Mysaria is done with the game. I think she's addicted to it. I think she does still crave it.
Okay. All right. We'll see.
I think she talks a big like, "Oh, I'm done with it." I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I'm Will Ferrell in Anchorman going, I don't believe you.
Question. What was Rhaenyra looking up in the books? Because the one page she lingered on was looked like a regal queen type person with a sword on a back of a dragon.
Maybe that was Visenya. I don't know.
We might need a screenshot of that, I think.
Yeah.
For analysis. Computer enhance. My last comment on this scene is, come on, the camera work on this, the looking through the bookcase was so good.
Yeah, that was
the
cool.
Lighting, just the angle, like the diagonal angle in her face. Come on, man, these guys are killing it with this. It's driving me crazy. It's so good.
Great work.
Because then I just have to sit here on the podcast and gush and gush and gush and gush. You make me look like a fool.
Well, also, I just want to voice my appreciation that, unlike in Driftmark last season, the dark scenes are at least visible now.
A lot of light scenes in this episode, in the last 2 episodes. So.
Well, I had to, I have an OLED TV and it's my pride and joy, but I have a spray called Screen Mom. Have you ever used it? So I have a spray called Screen Mom to help me clean off and polish it. And so I did that before the episode this week because I was like, I can't fucking see anything in the dark on this show. I got to be able to see past the smudges of my children. Yeah. My children putting their little greasy fingers on my TV.
Have they ever tried to swipe the screen on the TV?
No.
Oh, my daughter did that
They
once.
don't tablet really.
Okay.
That's an achievement of mine. They don't really tablet.
Got it.
All right. Well, we talked about Adam seeing Moondancer and our debate over his thoughts on it.
Just really quick, the CGI reflection. So they did CGI of the dragon as a reflection on the water going past. So good. Perfect.
Very nice. I wonder if do you know what ray tracing is? Now I'm going to get into gaming stuff.
I've heard of it. I don't really understand the mechanics of it. So,
Ray tracing is when my understanding of it is you are actually programming the reflection to be a real-time reflection. Because before that, CGI was done where you just mirrored it and you had them both run separately. Right. But ray tracing is saying like this is a true reflection of what's happening.
Nice.
And so it looks more realistic because that's what it would be.
That'd be very cool.
And I wonder if that's something that happens in movie stuff too. So maybe somebody could write it. I know your friend over on the every sci-fi film ever.
Oh yeah, Alicia. Yeah. She might know a little bit. But I think Alicia, just in-house, because she's friends with, and she's done some work in the video game industry. So
very nice.
She knows some people with that.
Very nice. The rat catchers hang. Aegon hangs all the rat catchers in the public square. We see a small folk woman discover her son. The camera pans over Cheese, and Cheese's dog whimpers.
The degradation of the king's reputation here. So this was a setup for the other thing, but it's really, I think, just going to this whole thing that Aegon is looking weak, as Otto tells him later. So
I saw a meme that said, "Someone take this dog's pain, quadruple it, and give it to Kristen Cole."
That's funny. Fair enough.
I mean, what a horrible misstep, though.
Yeah, completely. In a blink of an eye, in a very moment, all that work just gone.
Yeah. And really, I mean, Rhaenyra, if you believe that Rhaenyra did it, if the small folk believe that Rhaenyra did the Jaehaerys killing, that was a royal dying. That's still far away from them. And yeah, it's a child, and that's what makes it worse. But that's still far away from them. And that's a target of the royal family that makes sense a little bit, at least from a strategic standpoint. These are commoners. These are small folk. And these are people you know. And so I think Aegon is really honestly worse off in their eyes than Rhaenyra is at this point. Especially because anything about Rhaenyra's involvement was conjecture. Whereas this is...
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Visibly,
that's a really good point.
I am hanging them from the city walls. I did this. Nah.
The king did this. Period.
And he's proud of it.
Yeah. Right.
I love in the next scene. I'm not going to read it yet, but I love in the next scene when Otto asks him what he did. He goes, "Oh, I killed them. What'd you do with the rat catchers? Oh, like he wasn't even thinking about it. It's so bizarre.
Yeah. And what's the actor's name again? Tom Glenn Carney.
Mhm.
He is so inhabiting this role with that, like, psh, I killed him. Like, what? Yeah.
Yeah. Great performance. Great performance.
Speaking of Otto.
Yeah, let's talk about this scene. This is I would say this scene and the Mysaria scene and the scene with Daemon and Rhaenyra were the three like meatiest parts of the episode other than the fight.
Exactly.
So
this episode had so much, man. This thing was so densely packed.
Only
and it was an hour
meaty scenes. So every 15 minutes you were guaranteed a crazy scene. All right, Otto confronts Aegon for hanging the rat catchers. Otto makes clear that Aegon has completely wasted his reputational advantage. Otto calls Kristen's plan with Eric Cargyll a prank and admonishes the pair. When Otto finishes his lecture, Otto asks him to remove his handpin and give it to Kristen. Do you like my stupid joke in the show guide? The images underneath?
Where I have to look. I was looking at the notes. I'm scrolling down here. What am I looking at?
Right underneath
the Parent Trap.
I was like, the Parent Trap is essentially Kristen Cole's plan, right? Like, let's just
right. Twins, right? Swap.
Let's just make sure our parents don't know who we are.
The look on Otto's face when he says, "Oh, he acted, did he? And what did you two buffoons come up with?" The look of horror on his face is priceless.
Yep.
So good that, in fact, that we had to screenshot it and put it in the Discord.
I know. It's so. This scene is so good, and I'm just, and look, I've already gussed enough about Rhys Ifans' performance in the hot takes, but just the way that he still doesn't explicitly say like your dad didn't make you king. But he may as well have, right? The way he giggles after Aegon's like, my father made me king. He's like, I was waiting for him to go, I made you king, which would be true, right? Like he and Alicent made Aegon king. He would not have been king but for their actions.
Right. And I love the fact that Otto knows that this is all bullshit, right? And that, but he's playing it through all the way. His laugh just tells you everything that you need to know.
Now, I want to put something on the succession train here, and it's not completely related to the scene, but I think it's interesting to talk about. The absence of Maelor in the show, that would be the youngest son of Helaena and Aegon.
Okay.
It not in the show. They've confirmed it does not exist in this telling. The absence of that child means that the only living child of Aegon is Jaehaera, a girl.
And we cannot put a woman on the throne according to society at this time.
Well, according to the whole premise of his claim.
Exactly.
Which is, I'm king because you can't do the firstborn if it's a woman. So he can't name his daughter heir now.
Right, because that would be very hypocritical of him to then deny his half-sister. Wait, what are they? How are they related? It's his
half-sister.
Yeah, half-sister. That's right. Okay.
So now let me ask you, who is the heir apparent now?
Well, doesn't Rhaenys say this at one point when she's talking to Corlys? Who says it? Somebody says it that like all claims are up in the air now.
But there is an heir apparent. Who does it go to after the children?
A brother or a sister.
So Aemon is now the default heir to Aegon.
Right. Okay.
In a way that he's never been. Since Aegon had kids. So do we think that Aemon's going to act mischievously?
He had the chance to do it and he didn't. And he openly talked about it with Cole, but he didn't do it. Is he the dutiful son? He feels bad for Luke that it got away from him. I'm not seeing it. I'm not detecting it at this stage. Is it a possibility? Yeah, but I don't have those vibes in this moment.
Okay. You don't think Aemon's going to make a move against his brother? to get.
He doesn't have the. He doesn't have the council. He doesn't have any. He doesn't have anything. He hasn't put any structure into place.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen him talking to Laris. Like, it would be really out of left field for that to happen. You know.
Yeah, although we do have discussion between Otto and Alicent, basically acknowledging him as the serious one compared to his brother.
Yeah, they're just. I don't have any.
Yeah. I'm not saying that's what happens, and I'm just saying it's an interesting implication that now, if something were to happen to Aegon, the default is now Aemond, who has an exceptionally cruel streak.
Right, but he's showing. Well, again, we're in a gray zone here. He's receiving some moral tutelage from the courtesan that he's with.
Right.
So I don't know. He feels bad. He feels remorse. Yet. Aegon doesn't have the ability to feel remorse.
Well, yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, you're probably right. But he does. We see he does feel grief. He doesn't feel nothing. And I don't think we've ever seen Aemond have a genuine emotion. Maybe with the mistress, but it was more like, I kind of feel bad about it.
Yeah, that's a pretty big, loud signal from what we've had in this show. So I think Aegon is much more of a monster than his brother. All
right. I don't know if I fully agree with that. I think they both have monstrous tendencies in different ways.
I think we're arguing millimeters here.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right, so let's move on to Cargyll Bowl. Are we doing Cargyll Bowl or Twin Bowl?
I don't know. Twin Bowl, Cargyll Bowl is doesn't have as much of a ring to it.
Yeah, it doesn't roll off the tongue.
No.
It's not like Clegane Bowl. Clegane Bowl was just fabulous.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a letdown when it actually happened. But the name, it rang.
It was there was so much weight on that scene, and then it was just sort of, it was very stylized, where this was a straight up brutal fight.
Yeah. And
a fight between two bruisers who have been in the Kingsguard since they're 8 and 10 would not be a long fight. It would be brutal and short. And which is what this was, right?
Yep.
So I liked the realism of this fight a lot.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Cargyll Bowl begins. Eric Cargyll, for Apple, arrives on Dragonstone and convinces the guards he is his brother Eric. Mysaria sees the arrival and realizes what is happening, allowing her to alert the guards. Rhaenyra readies for bed, and Eric Cargyll tells Sir Laurent Marbrand, guarding Rhaenyra's chamber, that he will take the shift. Eric enters and tries to kill Rhaenyra, but is interrupted by the arrival of his brother. Cue the air horns. Pew, 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 pew.
This, the moment that Eric was in the cell with Mysaria, I knew that this was going to be the play, right? This was the plot device. Okay, got it. No problem. She's going to see him, and there's going to be a whole thing. And like I said at the top of the episode, this whole sequence had me on edge. I had no idea what was going to happen. The stakes were super high. It could have been easily a cheesy, Parent Trap situation, but they played it so well. I'm just super impressed. And again, the fight choreography was perfect, and then the whole thing with the death was spot on. Just absolute 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get to the death yet. Now jumping.
Oh, sorry, I got ahead of myself.
That's all right. I
had him sneaking around.
I did like Mysaria alerting the guards. I think that was a good way to explain why they were able to get there quickly afterwards. And I want to get to it in a minute, but just the hilarity of, I'll just read it. A tragedy for the songs. Sir Laurent Marbrand arrives in his pajamas, but cannot tell which twin is which. Eric wins the duel against Eric, but is so overcome with grief and guilt that he commits suicide. I almost said seppuku because that's what Nate wrote in the live chat last night. I just see my phone ping with seppuku. No context.
Yeah.
I knew what was going to happen though. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, one of them's going to kill themselves. Yeah. Which, by the way, there's no like exact description in the book. So this was very open to interpretation. It was basically like they were both found dead together, and this is a whole thing. So they hammed it up for this, but I'm glad they did.
Yeah, really nicely.
Yeah.
And official, yeah, it was official. I think somebody posted in the Discord that was it Cargyll who confirmed?
I don't know. I heard on the official podcast that Eric won.
Okay. Yeah.
And the other clue that I think I'll give people is that Eric said "Your Grace" at the end, and I don't think he would have said that if it were Eric.
No, that's definitely a term.
He would have said princess.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but really, yeah, I don't know. I got nothing else to add to it. I think the fact that that he fell on his sword was a really great wrap up of it. I mean, it fits the historical framework for it, but the way that they made this play out was very dramatic.
Yeah. Well, a very sad scene. I mean, him falling on his sword was just tragic. And I don't think there's anything else we could say about it.
Not much, other than just the build up, the way the music built up to the scene, the way that and I mentioned this before, it mirrored the last episode where we just have this big rise in the action, or a big sort of climactic moment. So really good. Yeah,
great episode construction, both episodes for sure.
Yeah.
And this is the point where we go, well, that looked cool. No, that looked cool. I did appreciate that they had the leg wound to sort of start to tell them apart.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I'll say is, I know they're moving fast, but if Lauren wants to decide who's who, maybe go for the one that keeps swinging at the queen. Like that seems like a good way to make the decision, buddy.
I like that Rhaenyra knew, she was kind of like, wait, Eric, you did, and they have there's like a look of recognition in each other's eyes, so that when he falls on his sword, she's so impacted by it.
Right.
So
you think it was guilt or grief, or was it no one will ever believe I'm me? So
all of the above.
Do it. Okay.
I think it's all of the above. He's so wounded. He's so broken. He's knowing that, him and his brother had this final thing. Yeah, he just couldn't live without. He couldn't live with the tragedy of the situation.
Very sad. Yeah. Bren will read about it 200 years later, right? All right. Otto prepares to leave while Alicent seeks absolution. Otto complains to Alicent about his dismissal and says he must leave to go to Old Town. She tells him to go to Highgarden instead to win the loyalty of the Tyrells. Alicent tries to confess her sins to her father, but he doesn't want to hear it.
I will not hear it.
This guy sucks.
He doesn't want to. He's suffered enough. He doesn't want any more. The situation's already messed up.
Girl needs a therapist.
Yeah.
So much therapy. So much therapy.
It's pretty rough.
There's not enough therapists in the world for her.
I go back to this idea that I don't think Aegon is going to be malleable. I think she's deluding herself that she's going to have less and less control over him as he grows into his power.
Yeah.
So, and this line, the young are but peacocks. This idea that, these sweet summer children, right? You think of all, it's going to be fun to go to tourneys and fight in wars.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's not so great. And you got to really take a long view.
Mm-hmm. Well, Alicent will then again pass down the generational trauma and fail to comfort Aegon as he weeps for his child.
Yeah. Brutal. Just brutal. She just turns away. She can't face it. And she's broken. She doesn't have whoever comforted her.
Well, I'll tell you who comforts her.
Now.
Criston Cole arrives to resume his affair with Alicent. Alicent begins by slapping and hitting him, but the two begin kissing.
Yeah. Boy, I don't know. It's they really are making it easy to for us to all hate Crispy Cole.
Truly the worst.
Yeah. Pretty awesome
Truly
in its worstom.
And Fabian's doing an amazing. Is it Fabian or Fabian? I don't know.
I don't know. Actually,
whatever it is, he's doing an amazing job. It's really hard to make me hate a character as much as I hate Kristen Cole. And that's because he's acting well.
Yep.
Well, this has been the episode, folks. I think we've got to move into listener feedback. But first, let's head into a break. We'll be right back with more House of the Dragon. And we're back with more House of the Dragon. All right, David. If I want to send in feedback to this show, if I want to chat with Nancy M, how can I do that?
Send your emails to the hand of the pod at hotd@thelorehounds.com. Hand of the pod has a good ring to it.
I know.
Basically, hotd@thelorehounds.com or head over to our website. And on the contact form, there is a voicemail tool as well as a contact form. If you don't want to write email, you can plug it in that way. And of course, we've got the Discord channel link in the show notes. And we have a whole setup for House of the Dragon. We've got a live watch chat. We've got a general discussion. And then each episode has its own siloed conversation for people so they can talk sort of spoiler free for what the episode is going on. And our hand of the pod, our Dragon Master, Nancy M, is collecting up a lot of those comments for us. So it's a great help. Thank you.
All right. Excellent. And I'm really grateful for Nancy for putting all this feedback together. We've already gotten, I'll just read this quick feedback here, that John M wrote on the Patreon saying, great job going through the feedback for the guys, Nancy. It seemed much more organized and kept them moving along. You're a great addition to their team.
Oh,
yeah. Thanks, Nancy. And we
nice.
love when you get the warm fuzzies like that. Isn't that nice?
Yes. That's all about our community. Would you like me to carry on with the feedback?
Sure. And we already addressed the Melissa W wrote in. I think one other person wrote in as well.
Thank you, Melissa.
I don't think it's in the outline though. About Emma Darcy's pronouns. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And not to belabor it, it was just a simple oversight on our part.
It's a boo-boo.
So, yep. Moving on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. All right. Seasons Pass and Hot D Show Guide feedback. Melissa, as well, by email, says, hi, Lorehounds. I'm a somewhat long-time listener. I first found you from the Bald Move Guys. I wanted to list a few items of feedback. Your show guide is excellent. John, bravo.
Oh, thank you. But I have to shout out Brian and Aaron, too, for their various contributions to the show guide.
But you're selling yourself short just calling it a show guide because it has more than just a recap of each episode. It also makes it very easy to look up stuff. I'm sure I'm not the only one who is confused by the similar sounding spelling names, and your guide helps me to sort them all out. The one thing I really like too, which we're lucky with the Notion platform, is it scales perfectly for mobile phones. Mm-hmm. So when you're looking at the character guide and the thumbnail images, it just perfectly flows and is easy to navigate and stuff. So yeah, really great second screen resource when you're watching the episodes.
Now, before we go into the season pass thing, what would you call it other than a show guide to more accurately say it? Like a wiki?
No, it's not a wiki.
It's not a wiki.
It uses wiki technology.
Too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because we're tailoring it for the show as a guide because we're
doing it live, right?
Yeah. And
I'm moving people to the deceased column as they die on screen.
Exactly. And updating and writing the new episode things. And we did that with True Detective and with Shogun, where we did less with Shogun on the episode to episode because it was less of a mystery thing or anything like that. But it really is a show related question because if you go out onto any of these Wikipedia sites, you're going to get spoiled because all the book stuff is going to be in there.
It depends. There are some that will do. There's one I saw that will do just show stuff. But
got it.
But in general, yes, you're right. And we update it like the day after the show comes out, so you should be able to keep up pretty quickly.
And yeah, even ongoing little tweaks and adding little bits and pieces of information. So I remember when we were doing our season 1, one of the things I would do is I would go through and make sure I get all the actors linked to their IMDb pages and that kind of stuff. So you can click through and get all that info. Melissa continues, I'm happy you did the season pass thing. I do feel subscription burnout. I would like to support you more regularly at some point, but the season pass was a good way to do something when I'm not in a position to commit to something monthly. I'm enjoying the podcast so far and looking forward to more. So this comment is exactly the season pass target. Like I feel like we hit the target. burnout on so many subscriptions, want to be contributing to the community, and just, or just showing your enthusiasm for a particular big show when you come around for just that show. Our subscribers, we want to keep around for a long time. And
we'd love to have you.
Yeah, we love to have as regular script, but they're the people who are watching all the shows and community, all that kind of stuff. And so I think the season pass is a really great thing. So Melissa, I'm really glad that it's a product that is working for you. So, and thank you for being a subscriber to that.
Absolutely.
Right. On to the next topic heading, the world of Hot D, general impressions on episode 2. Abigail, by email, says, "Greeting to the House of the Hounds." Should we do the Diamond Dog thing? Oh. I'm hereby sending you my first impressions after watching the episode twice before I encounter any sort of discourse. And of course, Abby is a very active user and subscriber and helped us out a lot with Shogun. So always good to hear from Abby. Firstly, a big round of applause to all the cast. The performances were brilliant. Hear, agreed. To summarize, patriarchy sucks, feudalism sucks, Crispin Cole sucks, and Daemon sucks. Both are pathetic crybaby brutes, and the list of their punchable offenses in just this episode is long, reaffirming that this family is a hot mess.
The hottest.
Hot mess for Hot D, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hot takes for a hot mess. Maybe after watching this episode, it might dawn on some folks that the whole team, that this or that, is meaningless, but fun for the marketing team. Oh, right. So are you team green? Are you team black? But the fun of the marketing team, the only winning one, as far as the purported teams, neither has a clear vision or plan or unified front. Green's in disarray, black's fumbling. John, do you have a political take on this? Are the Dems in disarray?
Oh, don't get me started.
Okay. What do you think about the marketing angle here? Do you think that's just sort of hyped up
it's a big marketing thing. I mean,
they're not giving us any green fandom. Like, there's nothing for us to root for in the green side.
I think the biggest thing would have been the Jaehaerys death.
Mm-hmm.
But then they kind of botched that with the Ratcatcher thing. So it's really hard to support the Greens right now.
Yeah, totally.
But maybe as things change, things will, shift more.
Abby continues, my only criticism of the episode is the way they abruptly change from one scene to a completely different one, seemingly unrelated, and then just switch back again. The scene of Mysaria and Rhaenyra being in 2 parts sandwiched by the Alan and Adam scenes. It was confusing.
This is exactly what I was talking about, was that Mysaria scene seemed like it ended in such a weird spot.
Okay. Also kind of dark, this one too, but that might only be because my impatience of watching it on my iPad as soon as I could. Oh, okay, so I don't know. I watched it on 2 different laptops and a television, and I haven't had any problems with brightness values. So, and your OLED seems to be performing well, you said.
Oh yeah, the lights were off too.
Okay,
that helped.
Abby sent in a second email just before we hit the record button, so we got that in real quick. I'm sending this follow-up email as I slept on it, and I thought about this while making sandwiches and listening to the official pod. It's about Larys. Good way to lose the appetite, right? Toe cheese, anyone? So the man continues to be a mystery. Sure, we know he's a creep and awful, but we have no clear grasp on what his motivations or goals are. And Matthew Needham doesn't have a clear answer to it either. This, at least, is a common question to both show only and book readers too. So Larys the mystery. Continuing, I was told by many that he seems to be a mashup of Varys and Littlefinger, but to me he seems more like Qyburn, just stirring the pot to see what happens in an almost detached way. All these comparisons to the main series are also showing not just that history repeats itself, but also how stagnant this world is. Several hundred years have passed, and there's no progress on any level of society. Does magic hamper it? Abby. So, John, any thoughts about the stagnation of society here, or what Larys's motivations are?
It's a good question. Why is it so stagnant? This is something that, I, as a big Wheel of Time fan,
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole thing of like, how does Wheel of Time is all about it being in cycles, right? Like technology, society breaks down and then it builds back up, and then it breaks down again and builds back up. We don't get that much of the Song of Ice and Fire universe. We just don't have that much history of it, so I don't know how long it would take. Also, I think we're just really used to the incredible pace of technology in the last 100 years, and things were slower. There's only like, I think it's under 200 years between Game of Thrones and this.
Right.
And so I don't think it's a crazy amount of time, but yeah, it is pretty stagnant. I think part of it is a lot of, a lot of things in our modern world start as for the military, right? Like that is a big pusher of innovation. You don't need to do innovation in the military when you have dragons. You got it. You won.
Right. Yeah, unless you have another magical life force being, the scorpion technology is only going to carry you so far.
Right.
And it's kind of worthless. Like it would be a huge leap to be able to take on dragon.
Yeah, and I don't think that the Targaryens are going to fund scorpion research.
No.
I think they want them exactly as effective as they are right now, because this is the first time that there's really been a dragon on dragon war at a large scale.
Oh, that's a good point. Like
they've feuded before. Like Maegor had a whole thing where he usurped the throne.
Okay.
But it was never really this like big like bunch of dragons versus bunch of dragons where you needed scorpions and all that.
Interesting. Well, speaking of family dynamics, Athena A on the Discord posted, the High Towers really don't have a healthy way of communicating with each other in that family. I think we were talking about this before, for sure. They treat family like a business, which is fair for the time, but you can clearly see how it comes at the emotional cost of their children. Oh my gosh, what a huge cost. Aemond is paying for motherly affection from houses of ill repute. Aegon is raging and sobbing, but can't talk about the trauma he experiences. And Helaena is just internalizing all that pain. Side note, Alicent trying to talk to Helaena about keeping quiet about her and Kristen is bonkers. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about that. Helaena saw them.
I mean, I said it in the recap, but I guess some people listen to me as well as Aegon listens to Otto Hightower.
I was looking at the show guide. What can I say? I was entranced. But it just really hit me now. Really, Alicent, read the room. There's a time and a place, indeed. By contrast, you can see Rhaenyra holding their children and offering physical and emotional comfort to them. You also get a scene of Jace and his cousin talking about his grief briefly, which indicates that they at least have some level of emotional maturity. Daemon is a wild card here in this family, though. Yeah, I think we touched on a lot of these points earlier on, just this. And then both families just can't stop hurting each other. No matter what happens, they just keep, bashing and bruising and stabbing and poking. It's pretty awful. John, how would you compare this with Succession from sort of family trauma, generational trauma?
Is it weird if I say that the Roys are healthier as a family than the Targaryens? Because I think it's true.
Okay. That's kind of, I don't know. That's kind of awesome.
I mean, Kendall
I kind of wish we had covered it.
Accidentally killed somebody.
I wish we had actually covered it, because it would be such a great addition to the pantheon of shows.
I know. Well, on the next Succession, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, looks like Abby has a third. Thanks, Athena. Always great to have you on the Discord. You've been very, very active recently, so thank you. Abby actually sent in another email. Aemond is being mothered elsewhere. Aegon cries alone, and Alicent turns her back on him. Contrast this with a small convo of Jace and Bella, which makes it evident that those kids receive more love from both biological and non-biological parents. This probably was just a continuation. Nancy's doing a great job of chopping up emails into thematic blocks, and so tracking them. So agreed. And this is what we were saying before. It's just so much easier to be sympathetic to Team Black, rather than Team Green.
Yep.
So. All right. Our next topical heading is sex in the city of King's Landing.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, Lisa, aka Red Zippy 330 on the Discord. On the Discord, she's Red Zippy 330, but she sent in an email, and the subject line,
yeah,
was
named this
Sex and the City.
section.
Referenced how Hot D is putting more intent in its storylines involving sex than Game of Thrones did, that the scenes teach us something about the characters. Okay, cool. First, we have the fight between Rhaenyra and Daemon that rocked, and I'm glad. They is finally seeing clearly. They interrogate him. What was our passion and our attraction truly about? Was Daemon only using them to piss off Varys? I think this is a question here of the actor versus the character, and I think in this case, the character is a she, right?
Yeah.
So then we have the intimacy between Rhaenys and Corlys, where their post-coital pillow talk showed us that Corlys enjoys the power his wife can have over him, while Daemon will always want to control. But then control fails him, right? In that one, in a couple of moments where he can't be in control, and that he's not able to. Third, we have Aemon curling up in a fetal position with his madame and surrogate mother, where he feels safe and vulnerable. And we learn he does feel regret over killing Lucerys. Lastly, Alicent and Kristen, who use sex as penitence, like practicing self-flagellation, the whipping and the beating of their own bodies. So both Rhaenyra and Aegon have fired their hand. Who will screw up the most, Kristen or Daemon? This is a really interesting analysis. What do you think, John, of these sexual relationships and what it tells us about their characters?
I totally agree. And the smug cunt of Dragonstone is really playing. Sorry, I needed to slip that in at some point because it was such a beautiful line.
And he's British, so they can say it, right?
Right. I'm British in the moment. No, I'm just quoting the show. But I did really enjoy that line. But anyway, I agree that the sex position, as they used to call it, is much stronger in this show than it was in Game of Thrones. You basically just had one scene, maybe two, in Game of Thrones that were true sex position, which was one was Jaime and Cersei in the pilot. And because that shows you, they're having an incestuous relationship. It shows them catching Bran and kicking him off. But the other one was, I would say, Daenerys and Khal Drogo, because it shows her taking control for the first time.
Right.
But this show really, it doesn't just tell you that these people had sex. It tells you why they're having sex. It tells you something about them through the way that they have sex, and that's what's interesting to me. I know everyone called me a prude in the Wheel of Time show because I was just like, this is boring sex position. This is not, this is not sex position, right? This is just a sex scene for the sake of a sex scene,
right?
And that's what bothers me. And I think it just feels silly to me. It's not a prude thing. It just feels silly to me.
Right. Where this is true illumination. This is just another facet of their characters being illuminated by being in the world and being a human being and a human body in the world.
Right. It's character development, and also like as this show is showing us, you don't actually need to see the act to get the same impact. I mean, you can have that be involved if that's important to it. But in fact, I think that it worked. It worked when they had Alicent getting real busy on Kristen Cole at the end of that last scene, because it showed her, completely distracted and loud at the end of last episode. But yeah, I just think that it's such a smartly done.
Yep. They're using it judiciously, and it's not. Yeah, it's not at all gratuitous.
Yep.
I think Kristen Cole. Boy, is he going to make bigger mistakes his hand than Daemon could have?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's possible.
I mean, Daemon is at least a strategic thinker. Kristen is just a fucking moron.
That's a good point.
Kristen makes a mistake at every single moment, whereas I think Daemon. He makes some mistakes, but I think he was perfectly happy to let Jaehaerys die. I don't think that was really a mistake in his eyes.
I think Kristen Cole is coming new into his pathology, where Damon's been living with his whole life. So I think he's a little bit more, capable of, because I think Kristen Cole's going to get real weird real fast.
Yeah.
He's going to have a lot of pressure on him as hand. And what's the head of the King's Guard? I'm blanking.
Lord Commander.
Long. Lord Commander, thank you. We're 2 hours and 13 minutes into this pod. So
I know. And we only have another 15 pages of feedback.
Exactly. Nate on the Discord, who was our resident Japanese historical expert, make a point. Sex is only part of the service of prostitutes in a world without trained therapists. And this was in relation to Aemond with his madam, his yet unnamed madam.
And they have built-in baristas, right? Like you get your hot milk, your hot steamed milk, and
gets a little almond drop in there.
Yeah, it's great. It's great stuff.
Clegane Bowl.
Clegane?
Cargyll Bowl. Guys, see, I just had it in my head. Sorry. We're getting punchy. We're getting late here. Cargyll Bowl. Abigail. By email. I didn't expect Cargyll Bowl to happen so soon. We're moving at breakneck pace. It was really tragic and emotional. It got confusing at one point on which is which and who is who, but they did have certain different vibes. Eric was the winner if there was one in the situation, but he chose to join his brother. We've got a voicemail from Michael, aka Dork of the Ninjas. John, do you have that loaded up?
Hey guys, just wanted to get my thoughts on the most recent episode of House of the Dragon. Listening to your hot take, your really quick hot take, and I am with David on this one. I was very much the opposite when it came to The Last of Us, but I'm very much with him on this time. I agree that it was the whole concept of, he's like, you can't be sure, I'm going to take away that certainty. I'm going to give you that certainty if you don't have to worry about that. But I also think there's an added element to it there as well. I think it's a combination of that and the fact is, he just killed his own brother, and he can't live with himself with that knowledge anymore. He's devastated and feeling guilty, and just you could see how much the two of them loved each other, and like he came into that scene, in my opinion, like, I'm trying to stop you to stop yourself, and because you're not going to be able to live with yourself, even if you make it out of here after killing Rhaenyra. We both know that's not right, and it's just a beautiful scene, and just like, I think this is easily the best episode of the series so far. It was an episode that made me like Otto, and that says a lot. But just want to give my thoughts. Looking forward to your coverage of the episode, though.
On Otto, a broken clock is right twice a day, right? I mean, sometimes the guy's just right. But you know what I really love about Otto is that they made me see, they really showed how Otto understands how he messed up. He's like, oh, we knew this kid was a psychopath and we put him on the Iron Throne anyway. Oopsies.
Yeah, big oops. And he regrets it when he walks out. So, but yeah, it was a really great scene between these two brothers. And I'm glad for all the season one, like Eric and Eric, what the hell? It really does play out very well. So thanks, Michael. Good to hear from you. It's been a minute since we've had a voicemail from you. So thanks for sending that in. Shane on the Discord, because he says your grace, it's meant to be Eric and that he's racked with guilt. I think following his kin, killing his twin. Rhaenyra also yells Eric's name as he commits seppuku. Yeah, so I think we're good there. I think we've got Abby and Lisa. I think, Abby points out born together, die together. And Red Zippy says she settled on grief being the primary reason the surviving brother kills himself. It didn't occur to me to care about who was who. I just knew that as a book reader, they both died, so I didn't keep track during the scene. And Kim M, I love that Eric switches sides to black just before he fell, but I'm sad to see the characters gone from the show. I love to hate Eric. I think maybe she wrote Eric. Kim wrote Eric. I'm not sure if.
Oh yeah, it's flipped.
Okay,
Kim flipped it in the entire email.
Okay, got it.
Because Kim was as confused as most of this fandom.
Thanks, George. All right, I think that closes out the I want to call it Clegane Bowl again. See, it's just stuck in there, the Twin Bowl.
Cargyll. It doesn't roll off the tongue.
No, it does not. And not after a day like we've had and
Twin Bowl. Let's just go with Twin Bowl.
Team Green, Aegon, Athena Agileia on the Discord. Dude, Aegon's actor is selling it for me this season. Moments I keep being like, he's so relatable. And then I remember that he had bastards fighting each other last season. Totally. Kim M by email. Aegon destroys his father's legacy literally and figuratively in one fell swoop. What a complete tool. As always, I appreciate and love you guys. Keep up the excellent work. I look forward to listening to your coverage every week. Thank you, Kim M. I believe Kim M is one of our lore masters too.
I believe so.
Characters. Team Green, Otto. Lisa, aka Red Zippy. Rhys Ifans is brilliant in this episode, and he'll be missed. I don't think he's gone. I think we can still see him. As a public relations professional myself, I have to give him kudos for his plan to publicly blame Rhaenyra for the brutal killing of Jaehaerys to gain sympathy and support. And Otto getting so angry at Aegon for throwing that all away by hanging all the rat catchers. I can tell you how many times I've wanted to say those words to some of my clients. You have just destroyed all the hard work we've done. I'm out of here.
Yep.
And Ifans cackle, chef's kiss. Nate on the Discord says, I hate Otto, but he understands information warfare. That is absolutely true. Pawson20 on the Discord, great second episode. Otto Hightower was fantastic and kind of reminds me of Tywin as well. He isn't opposed to violence, but he wants it targeted and to serve his interest, which didn't happen when Aegon had those rat catchers killed.
Right. That was not going to help them at any point. And I'll say, Otto is not gone. There's no way. I mean, he was literally just given a mission by his daughter, right? Go to Hightower. They are the Hightowers. Go to Highgarden, George. Go to Highgarden, get the support of the Tyrells and their bannermen.
So listeners, I'm just going to kind of blast through the rest of this, but we have so much feedback that I think John and I were actually talking about. We're doing a second podcast if we keep having this feedback, but I think we just want to finish this podcast off tonight. So apologies, but I'm just going to speed through a bunch of it. And now I lost my place in the list.
That's all right. I'm here. I'll read some of it. How about that?
Okay, thank you. That's good. My eyes are starting to go cross.
Not a problem. I'm here. You know, Abby is not sad about Otto's fall, but it is fun to see Otto have a little bit of a taste of his own medicine. Pawson again comes back and says, did anyone see that during the funeral procession when the carriage got stuck? Did anyone think the head of Jaehaerys would fall? Yeah, we talked about
I think
that.
Everybody in Podcastville did. Yeah, across all podcasts.
Helaena is the next topic, and boy, Abby's heart goes out to Helaena. Brian C. just said the dramatic impact or lack thereof of Helena's choosing one child over another. I tend to agree with John. Wasn't at the edge of my seat for it, and I think the reason, for me at least, is that you see her as a character in season 1 off to the side. Aloof, having visions, playing with the spider, doing embroidery, but not having one-on-one mothering seeds. To have that strong connection between mother and her children, and I think because of that, it suffers from this particular scene. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And overall, it's a good start, and looking forward to more of the podcast. Thanks, Brian. Agree. The choice is what I was missing in that scene. But we're moving on, and I think they've handled the aftermath well. Kim M is back to say, I hope we see more of Helena's character. She's made me giggle and cringe in terror already when we're 2 seasons in. She's spewing out all these prophecies and no one is listening. The Greens really need to get their shit together. Oh, you're highlighting voicemail here. It looks like I think Nancy is transcribing the voicemail. I
think she transcribed the voicemails, yes.
Nancy, you're insane. We love
the best
you
possible way.
You don't have to transcribe the voicemails. It's okay. You're doing too much work.
She's having fun, I think. I think she's having as much fun as you are with the show guide.
Yeah. Brian, I'm sorry that I read your voicemail out loud, but it's
we'll get you next time. I think it's Brian 8063.
Yeah, I think so too. That's why Oh, that's funny. All right. Rocky had another comment just saying the particles of light is foreshadowing Ash from the Dance of Dragons.
Oh, that's
It's
a good
theory.
One. Yeah.
All right. We got Alicent on Team Green from Abby. She says, Alicent seemed more preoccupied by her sins getting revealed than by the emotional state of her kids. With all her talk of duty, she failed them all. Yes, she has her bag of reasons and circumstances and traumas. But at one point, you need to grow up and stop with the victimhood stance. Her failure to be an adequate parent might be the bigger sin than the one she's so desperate to confess and wash away. I like that. She wants the easy way out. She's looking at short-term stuff when this was something that was festering for years and years and years. Athena A says Alicent gets her avoidance of her children's issues honestly from Otto. It was really glaring when you see the I have sinned father. He's like, nah, don't want to hear it. Don't talk to me. Then she goes and sees Aegon crying and is like, yeah, not my problem. Alec fell straight down.
Good characterization.
Kristen only got one comment. I'm surprised. So Cole is now the Hand, but has there been precedent of Lord Commander of the Kingsguard becoming the Hand? Surely it isn't going to be a good decision. I don't know about that.
I think there was some discussion in the Discord that there might have been. I think, was it Davey Mack or somebody was saying that historically there is, but it's never been a good situation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and Lisa brought in something that we didn't talk about, which is that we got an acknowledgement of Daron existing.
Yes, we did. And I was like, who?
The youngest child of... He's got a portrait, like a drawn portrait in our show guide, because we knew he was coming, but we don't know what he looks like yet. So,
and he's a political ward, right? He's being kept by another family.
No, he's with his mother's family, the Hightowers.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. He's just... I think he's considered a ward of the Hightowers right now. He's just hanging out with his uncle.
Okay.
Yep. Team Black, we're back. Nothing that much of note. Everyone's focused on the characters, so Nancy wrote in herself. I found it very interesting that in the last episode, there were more than a few references to Maegor the Cruel. I now think that that was a teaser for the title of episode 2 and how Team Green tried to position the responsibility for baby Jaehaerys' death on Rhaenyra the Cruel. Agreed. I can't say certain things, but definitely Maegor's name is going to be invoked more, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Characters on team not clear or unknown. Abby says, do we think Mysaria will be back to offer help for Rhaenyra? What do you think, David?
Yeah, I think after this, it's going to be common cause. I think she's going to help Rhaenyra with stuff. We'll see how it works out, but I don't think she's gone from our shores.
Cool. And also on Mysaria, Lisa asks, did Mysaria even get on the boat after she passed on the info? If we didn't see her leave Dragonstone, did she really leave? I say no, and we'll see her again.
Same. Yep. That's what I'm thinking.
I like this. Nancy put this in the form of a conversation, it looks like. I have what can be considered a third sentence. I can't wait to see more of Adam. He is an absolute snack. Hard eyes.
Hard eyes emoji.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing these characters a little bit more. Adam and Alan, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Rocky Zim is back. Says, I'm thinking Alan's brother Adam may get to be a dragon rider. Mm-hmm. He was looking at that dragon, and I think it's foreshadowing.
Yeah. See, I was thinking that he was looking to the stars like, God, I'd love to ride a dragon one day. That was my thought.
So the question is, can someone not part of the royal family ride a dragon?
Indeed, that is.
Do they have the midichlorians?
That's right. Do they have the Martin midichlorians? Martichlorians?
All right. The small folk. Athena A says, I like the touches of daily small folk life. A lot of shows gloss over that micro impact.
Agreed.
Yeah. Kyle M. Hugh has a sick child and a wife who is fed up with the price of food. Hugh still has not been paid for the scorpions he's building, despite Aegon's promise in the last episode. Aegon is now very distracted and crying about it, and has almost certainly forgotten about Hugh and the craftsman Hugh assured would be paid soon. He was absolutely going to do something in the next few episodes. It will not work out great for him, I suspect, if only because this is a prequel and the original series was not littered with people regaling each other of tales of Hugh the Magnificent. I am worried about Hugh. He's doing the best he can. Poor Hugh.
Yeah, we're going to see something, but I think it's just pointing to Aegon's mismanagement. And now that Kristen Cole, he has no sense of what it takes to feed a city.
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh, he's screwed.
Yeah.
The rat catcher's dog. Athena A says that dog deserved better. Rocky Z says that dog is going to seek revenge on Aegon.
That's the secret. That's like Arya in the closet with the crossbow.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be the dog jumping out at Kristen Cole.
Right. And Winterfell and the Starks, our last piece of feedback. Melissa W. is back to say, I thought about the wall. Is it something about what's on the other side or something about the wall itself that keeps the dragons from crossing? I was thinking it was something magical about the wall itself, but I don't know where I got that idea from. I don't think it could be something magical about the wall itself because we saw dragons cross the wall in Game of Thrones.
But then I'm trying to remember the scene now, but one of the dragons actually broke the wall, right? Wasn't it It
was the zombie one.
It was the zombie one who broke it. Yeah, broke the spell. I always thought that the wall had magic imbued into it.
Yeah.
And whether it's like a force shield barrier or it smells funny up there, I don't want to go because there's like lots of weird creepies. So
I think it does have magic imbued to it, but I think it only kept away the long night people.
Okay.
The White Walkers.
Got it. Okay. Let's wrap it up.
That's it. All right.
That's it, everybody.
Very, very, very quick show notes, folks. All right. I'm going to read to you our podcast schedule for the week. David wants me to get like light jazz music put underneath all this. All right.
Jizz, don't you think?
Oh, stop yourself. All right. All right. Enough George Lucas. Or that we're here on Hot D. If you want the Hot D hot takes on Sunday night, you got to sign up for the Patreon or Supercast. $3 a month. Or you can do the season pass for $10 permanently, forever. You get everything. Just on House of the Dragon for that one. But you get everything if you're on the Patreon or Supercast. Doctor Who has its season finale, and Alicia and I are covering that this week. Empire of Death. The Acolyte Season 1, Episode 5 is out this week, and Alicia and I will be covering that as well. The MC Universe is back with Alicia and John.
Hey. Good to hear John back on the mic.
Doing a preview of Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yep, that's going to be a big one for the summer.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I actually booked a ticket for it already. You know that? Me.
Wow.
And Patreon exclusive, we've got Shireside Chats, letter 4 to Edith Bratt. I actually finally did one. Second Breakfast number 20, Hotel Breakfast. And, of course, our Hot D Hot Take.
Oh, and we've got the Fifth Element for 11Zs.
Yeah, but that's next week.
Yeah. That is true. You're doing this week. Sorry.
You crazy kid.
I'll just be quiet and sit over here.
You should. Rings and Ritual.
Put to bed.
Chapter 8, Alloyed, the finale of Season 1 of Rings of Power through the lens of ritual with Marilyn Arperkila, our favorite Tolkien scholar, and Sarah Brown of Signum University. Am I saying it fast enough?
No.
All right, I'm keeping going. The Acolyte is also on the Star Wars Canon Timeline podcast. Radioactive Ramblings is doing The Boys still. They're doing Season 4, Episode 4, Wisdom of the Ages. I don't know if you're watching The Boys, David, but boy, is it a good time.
I got Episode 1 in. That's all I was able to fit.
I'm caught up. I've been keeping up with it.
Good.
I don't know how. And Properly Howard just released something. Oh, yeah, you got to save it for the bear. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm screwed this week. Properly Howard just released an episode that I haven't added to the schedule. It is Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon.
Oh, yeah.
Closing out the season of Felonies and Fugazis. And Will Shift Dust just released their interview with the Beacon 23 showrunner. And there's something else. I think it's a book club thing about Shift on the Will Shift Dust feed. So I've got to update the show schedule with that as well. Give us our shout outs, David.
Okay, to our server boosters, they help make our server a more fun and interesting place. Gnarls, Aaron K., Tiller the Thriller, Dork of the Ninjas, Duve71, Captain Gingy 56, and Athena Ajalea. To our lore masters, our top tier subscribers who make a huge difference for our ability to produce podcasts. Samartian, Michael G., Michelle E., David W., Brian P., SC, Peter O.H., Bettina W., Adam S., Nancy M., Duve71, Brian 8063, Frederick H., Sarah L., Gareth C., Eric F., Matthew M., Sarah M., DJ Miwa, Andra B., Kwang Yu, Deadeye Jedi Bob, Nathan T., Alex V., Aaron, Sub-Zero, Aaron K., Dally V., Mothership 61, Gnarls, Kathy W., hey, newest lore master, fresh subscriber, and then we have Stuart B., who just upgraded from Lorehound to lore master.
Ooh.
Thank you very much, Kathy and Stuart. Great to have you aboard. Here is your shout outs. And of course, who is ever last but never least, Adrian. We hope your move is going well. And Adrian is moving, making a big move. And bon voyage. I don't know how to say it in Portuguese.
You know what? It's whatever you want it to be. I think it's. I don't think there is a way to say it.
Okay. Well, we can say goodnight. How about that?
Good night. I'm tired and I'm making stupid jokes now. Goodbye. The Lorehounds podcast is produced and published by The Lorehounds. You can send questions and feedback and voicemails at thelorehounds.com/contact. Get early and ad-free access to all Lorehounds podcasts at patreon.com/thelorehounds. Any opinions stated are ours personally and do not reflect the opinion of or belong to any employers or other entities. Thanks for listening. This summer, we enter a new era of Star Wars.
You mean the Dawn of the Star Wars Canon Timeline podcast?
Yeah, sure, that too. But I was obviously talking about the Acolyte. We've got to cover that on the Lorehounds.
Oh, but the Star Wars Canon Timeline podcast is exactly at that point in the timeline, the end of the High Republic, 100 years before the prequel trilogy. We've got to cover it there.
Why not both?
Okay, deal.
It's the first live-action Star Wars outside the Skywalker saga. Nobody can miss this.
Listeners, kick off your hot lore summer weekends with scene-by-scene breakdowns of the Acolyte, found in both the Star Wars Canon Timeline podcast and the Lorehounds Mother feed.
And the Lorehounds Star Wars feed.
Wherever you like to listen, a couple of days after each new episode is released.